Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order the Town of Old Saybrook Zoning Commission meeting for Monday, March 16th, 2026, 6 p.m. Town Hall, first floor conference room at 302 Main Street, Old Saybrook. Would all stand to the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. A roll call, Mark Caldarella, Chair, here. Derek Kennedy, Vice Chair, is here. John Henry, Secretary. Laura, regular commission member Laura Gray, and Robin Kelly. Online, we have Brenda Dyson, and we have in audience our alternate Michael Kelly. We also have our CEO officer, Chris Costa, our clerk, Joanne Galley. I counted 12 in the audience and 6 online. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. The regular business was the minutes from our last meeting of Monday, March 2nd, 2026. Is there a motion to approve? Motion to approve.
I have a comment.
John Henry, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes, sorry.
That's all right.
For the Hanford Commons residencies, there was on part B, after the motion to continue the public hearing, I think you left out a word, construction of a new 7,080 square foot.
Which page are you on? Is there a number? Or B is under B?
B,
Which paragraph?
first paragraph and second.
Okay.
So it seems like there should be square foot structure or
No.
square foot building.
Yeah, that typo carried from the agenda. Yeah,
Okay.
structure for 30.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any others?
And it's in the second paragraph there,
It's,
Four paragraphs.
under B.
it got omitted
Structure.
somehow, it got pushed. Okay.
Any other corrections, additions? Not hearing any, move to a vote. All those in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, passes 5-0-0. Thank you. Any correspondence other than what we have for this evening's
No,
hearings?
I think we have
I
enough.
think we do have, absolutely. Continue with public hearings. A, Whispering Winds, application for site plan approval for affordable housing development at CGS 8-30G to construct 12 dwelling units, 21,446 square feet total, and retain existing 2,453 square foot single family dwelling unit and 1,274 square foot appliance repair business at 846 Middlesex Turnpike, assessors map 63, lot 5, restricted business B3 district. The applicant is Antonio Oliveira, agent is attorney Edward Casella. Our action is decision by April 6, 2026, or no later than April 7, 2026. Attorney Casella, welcome.
Good evening. Edwin Casella representing Antonio Oliveira, the property owner and applicant on behalf of Whispering Winds LLC. He's here this evening along with Joe Wren, the engineer. After the last meeting, there was a couple of things that we were asked to follow up on, so I'll just go through. The commission should have received correspondence from the fire department and fire marshal in the sets, so I believe those 2 items have been checked off the list. You asked a question about the laboratory test results. We received an email from Eastern Analytical Labs. I forwarded it, but I don't know if it's in your packet, so I can pass it out.
We did get it.
It was for.
You did get
It was
it?
forwarded, yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, so, and if you remember looking at the test results, there was the E. coli section, which had been left blank. And the reason that it was left blank was because, coliform is an umbrella. And so when coliform is absent, that means E. coli is absent. So they don't test again, because I guess E. coli is powerful, I'm not really sure. But that's what the laboratory stated, so the wells are clean, ready for use for residential, application. Does anybody have any questions on that before we move on?
Commissioners?
No,
Nope.
Okay, good. Then there's two other issues on our list. One is the snow storage, and then the other is the fire tank. Kyle, is here from, the tank manufacturing to just answer any specific questions or discuss specifications regarding the fire tank, but I'll have Joe go through the snow storage first.
Okay. Here are two, 4 copies of, just an updated plan. Sheet two of 11. And we just did a quick update of that, because there was a question regarding snow storage and the well radius for the neighbor last time. So on here, there's a very light blue shade. We couldn't make it too dark, otherwise we'd start masking out other information. But behind building 1, behind and to the north of building 2, and then also northwest corner of the property. Those are just areas that make sense for snow storage during, we have another winter like this in the next 10 years. That represents nearly 7,000 square feet of open area for snow piling and snow storage, if needed, of course. Typically, the smaller storms should be plowed up on the edges of the curbs, but if snow needed to be moved around on the site to remain on the site, there's over 7,000 square feet to do that. And that's what all these light blue shaded areas represent. The other thing that came up at the last meeting regarding the neighbor's well at this location here, wanted to be a provision on the plan for no snow storage in that area. So we didn't show any light blue area, only east of the building. We didn't do anything south of the building in that whole entire corner, but we also shaded in red on this plan and put no snow storage permitted in this area. And we shaded it red, so it's pretty clear on the plan. I know we talked about something in the condominium docs last time too. I don't know if that covered that or not, but those were the two main things. The last one regarding the fire tank, and Kyle's here, he knows a lot more about fire tanks than I do. But the last time we revised the fire tank detail, Jeff, if you have a copy of his latest letter, said every single other comment is addressed. He had some very specific stuff on the tank, comparing it to section 150 of the public improvements manual. And that's why we have Kyle online if you have any additional requirements there. But of course, just like the detail that's already on the plan says, it will be compliant with all the town regulations and all the manufacturer specifications as well. Last time we provided you with an installation and a maintenance manual on that tank as well. So we think we have all the bases covered. But if you have any specific questions or if Kyle can add any color to that, now's the time.
You want to do that now, or do you want to continue?
No, I think I'm done.
You're done.
Because Jeff Jacobson, all of his comments were addressed for that letter, with the exception of a few minor details on that tank, and that's why we had it.
Commissioners? Questions? Comments?
Just I thought you would ask for a rendering of the retaining wall. Did you
You
get
did,
that?
I did not see that.
That's something that we did not do, but we could bring up a picture for you and put it on the screen
Did you? No.
for you. Yeah.
Okay.
While Kyle's talking, just pull up the link to like you want. But let Kyle and,
I did already.
okay, yeah. So Kyle, can you hear us? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, I can.
Just introduce yourself, Kyle. Tell everybody who you are and just talk a little bit about the tank and what, I know you had a conversation with Jeff Jacobson, the town engineer today. If you could just tell them what that conversation was and what resulted from that conversation.
Yes, sir. So my name's Kyle. I work for National Storage Tank, who is been working and helping with the 30,000 gallon underground fiberglass tank for fire suppression. Jeff and I had a conversation today to discuss section 150 and the figures 26 through 29 codes just to confirm everything that we are providing meets your requirements. And based off of those details, pretty much everything is the same. There's just a couple small caveats, mainly regarding the piping of the tank and how on the drawings versus the description of the site, how that piping is going to be laid out so it doesn't affect the driveway that the tank will be underneath, along with the how the plan is to fill the tank, whether that is through a dedicated fill opening or just through the manway access.
How is the tank going to be filled? Is there a method?
It could be either way. In my experience, these types of tank is just going to be filled once and be used in just emergency situations. And so, mainly, if you have a water tender come out, you can have a dedicated cam lock onto the top of the tank that will have its own H20 rated manway cover that they can connect to and pump directly there. Or if you want to open up the manway lid and have the hose go through that way, both ways work. Um,
Kyle, is there a recommended maintenance plan for the tank or for the water level in the tank? Is there anything recommended for that?
You'll have a vent, and many times you will have sensors, so you can install a level sensor on the tank or utilize a liquid level indicator. Because of the place this is located, the liquid level indicator is not going to be necessary. So I don't have a specific within our maintenance manual of testing that water level, but likely every year checking just to make sure there's water in there is the best way to go.
But in your experience with the one-piece fiberglass tank, that they don't leak.
That's
Water
correct.
can go down.
That's correct. Yeah, in our maintenance and installations instructions, as long as those guidelines for the embedment and compacting is followed, there will be no issues with the tank.
Thank you.
Are there any specification that the tank is going to be H20 rated?
We'll have the tank be designed to H20 rating along with having the manway covers. If you need some written spec, I could likely get that for you, but that will be provided in the drawings.
The detail right on your national storage tank detail on sheet 711, the title or the name of that is fire water storage with full bottom drain H20 load rated. It says it right on the detail.
That's correct.
So the tank itself is H20 load rated for traffic. And then of course the manway, just like a septic tank riser, is H20 load rated as well.
That's correct.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Jeff Jacobson's comments and trying to understand.
Can I help?
Yeah, go ahead.
So these comments all kind of came in at the 11th hour. And I spoke to Jeff, and what he said was despite the approval of the fire marshal and the fire chief of this, that in looking at the regulations for public improvements, what was on the plan didn't meet the specifications. So I reached out to the fire marshal who called me. Well, I reached out to the applicant, Attorney Pasella, and I reached out to the fire marshal and the fire chief, hoping to try to get this resolved for the meeting tonight. I spoke to the fire marshal 20 minutes before the meeting. And he said, well, I'm not really sure. And I wasn't privy to all the details of the fire suppression tank and so forth. And what the discrepancies were between the design and the plan. I know that Kyle also spent a number of specifications. I think Jeff's comments were based on the way that it's designed. It doesn't meet the current regulation for public improvements. I'm not saying that that isn't something that can get fixed or adjusted. But 20 minutes before the meeting, I really didn't have the information to provide to the fire marshal for the details because this came up so late. Prior to that, just kind of going through and talking about fire protection and the tank functioning properly. I did talk to the fire marshal in the event that I was asked to draft motions, And the one thing that he did suggest and was a thought is maybe at the end of each year, at calendar year, that they just have the homeowners association inspect and just report, that the tank and appears to be, working properly, and that could be added to the HOA docs.
That's
So,
agreeable. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, well, do you have anything more?
well, I guess the thing is, I don't think we're kind of in a tough spot that we don't have the fire chief's comments now. We don't have Jeff is not, Jeff and the fire marshal, and this all just happened within a few hours of the meeting. I mean, I'm going to assume that this is something that probably could get retrofitted to meet the regulation, but that's something I know Jeff Jacobson shared that with Kyle.
Well, the detail also includes a note that it has to be installed in conformance with section 150 of the public improvements. I mean,
So I guess Jeff was just pointing out that what was designed doesn't meet. So I'm
What
I'm trying to infer
confused as
with
to exactly what doesn't it mean? And if
I-
you wanna go through these comments, we can.
So I guess I'm gonna kind of interject and say, I'm not exactly sure and haven't reviewed the regulations for public improvements as Jeff did. It sounds like we can make this meet it versus beating it to death and going through every section.
Yeah,
Maybe we just have the experts take a look at it versus trying to figure out, not that Kyle's not an expert, what the design flaw is, but so late in the day, unfortunately, as much as I tried, I couldn't get the answer to that question.
yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, this isn't a public improvement, it's a private improvement. So as we argued in the beginning, this section doesn't even apply. It applies for a subdivision and a fire tank that goes into a subdivision road that's clearly a public improvement.
But I believe it also said housing in there, not to argue it back and forth, but we kind of are where we are with
Yeah.
it. It's just trying to get to the details and not have 3-hour discussion on
Yeah, we don't
pipes
wanna
and
have,
things that
I
were.
mean, if the commission's agreeable to a condition, then we don't need to talk about any of this and it can meet the section 150 as it says on the plan. So,
Well, from our understanding is that our fire chief and our fire marshal, what they approve doesn't meet the section 150. That's more of a concern, I would think, than the detail that's highlighted in memo.
According to
I would argue
According to Jeff, according to Jeff.
that they're the practical people and they're the ones who have experience with these things and
Well-
using them.
Then that's like having a regulation that you don't uphold.
Yeah, well,
I guess the bottom line is the section of the public improvements was put in, at the request of years ago, the fire department and emergency services. So if that's not what we're proposing to do anymore and there's gonna be conflicts, then that's a separate discussion that needs to be addressed as to why we're not following those specifications.
But there's nothing in there that says no fire tank in the world is gonna work and
No one
it's
said
gonna be a
that.
disaster.
No one
So-
said that.
so
It
could
just
be
doesn't
a
meet the
simple
regulation.
The approval that it needs.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm trying to keep,
All manufacturer specs. Kyle will tell you that. You read it.
Yeah, so Tony had Kyle, who's out in California, works for National Storage Tank, talk to Jeff specifically about compliance with section 150 today. So since Kyle knows more than any of us about fire tanks in the room, maybe he can
Let's hear from him.
enlighten us a little bit on his discussion with Jeff today about section 150 of the public improvement. Kyle?
Yes, sir. As I understand, is that the majority of these changes are some things that are outside of my scope, such as the piping schedule, external piping from the tank, which is not included in my scope, are some of the main listed here, such as the 6-inch Schedule 40 steel pipe suction. That would be outside of my scope. The optional hydrostatic test, which would be done in the field at the time of tank installation. The big change I see on here is the anti-vortex plate with the H-inch bottom drain flexible connector should be eliminated. That just depends on how they want the layout to be. We'll need to include the anti-vortex per fire requirements, and I understood that it was an 8-inch fire line for the project. I do have 2 on there for now, but that is something that I imagine Jeff and the fire chief will discuss the final layout of accessories. Um, the other one, as I mentioned earlier, was the fill line, confirming the way it was filled as is currently. My details not showing a fill line, which I'm sure is another thing that they'll change. But another note is that your figures that show a drawing are based off a concrete tank, so we can replicate a lot of that with a fiberglass tank. There's just some small differences along with where some of the pipes are placed, which I believe they're also discussing.
And fiberglass tanks are allowed under section 150A6, correct?
That's
So
correct.
there's just no drawing for that.
That's correct. Standardly, we provide a drawing once we enter into a project with you guys, and that'll be one of the first things that we do to initiate those conversations.
Is there anything in section 150 that you don't think can be met?
That revolve around the tank, no, not that I saw. I'm just doing a double check here. No, everything seemed very straightforward to what I've seen before. Just slight differences, like always. So nothing that I saw that we couldn't meet.
Okay. Okay, so I think we'd be comfortable with a condition of approval that the final specifications be approved by the town engineer and the fire department.
Sure.
Do inspection. Right.
I don't have a problem with that.
What do you think?
And you might have comment, check the tank every 6 months.
I mean, yeah, in accordance with the 150, it's, why not, right? That's the point of the regulation.
And the fire marshal was fine with 1 year, just so that.
Yeah.
If you want 6 months, I mean, that's okay. Put it in 2.
Other questions?
Oh, yeah, the landscape wall, hold on.
Your typical landscape wall, but we just.
Would that be something you'd be willing to provide the design? If there was a condition of approval to the specifications, you know, of the
Yeah, I mean, the
engineer?
type of stone hasn't been selected yet, but of course, if it required a building permit, it had to be designed, of course, yeah. The specification, if you wanted the specification, it didn't have to be designed, the exact specification before it was installed, yes, but it's just north facing the quarry, no one's really looking at. And there's a fence on top of it, no one's really gonna see it.
I'm not saying the aesthetics, just the structure, I guess that's,
Yeah, it's
that would
the-
just alleviate and address one more comment. and
Yeah,
we
that's,
can-
it just retains just a few feet of fill, it's not super tall.
We can
Like
provide,
2 to 4.
you can provide a specification for the landscape wall.
Yeah, the manufacturer will provide, usually not up until 6 feet where they require like old back fabric or anything, no part of that is 6 feet tall. Something similar to what it has up on the screen, it's the landscape block wall.
There was also a question, concern from our last meeting that I'd like to get clarification on, had to do with the fencing on the property, location and height. Okay, could you walk us through that again, please?
Yeah, these plans are revised to show that based on the initial comments. So along the entire southern property line, the entire way is a 6-foot high solid vinyl fence. Along the northern property line, same thing, 6-foot high solid vinyl fence. And then the eastern property line has a 6-foot high full fence.
What is a full fence?
So it's a black aluminum fence with orange spigots that you can.
So the chain link with the
It's not
blinds that
chain
go
link,
through
it's
it?
just, not chain link, it's just, what do you call them, balusters maybe?
Yeah.
Vertical balusters with the horizontal one, top and bottom. Ed probably can pull up a picture of it.
Yeah, because that's pool safety rated. I think that
Instead of the normal 4.5 foot.
Why was that type of fence chosen, just
It's to be through,
for the purpose of?
looking at the pond.
It's a quarry pond east for that type of fence there.
I believe I raised at our meeting 2 weeks ago that, the preference would be the same type of fence all the way around.
But yeah, the owner's preference is to have this type of fence that's pool rated, so it has all the safety. And, you know, the safety, aspects of a stockade fence.
As a, condition to be the same, would that be acceptable?
No,
And why again?
because they wanna see through. There's a nice view looking to the
Who
rear,
wants to see for,
the residents.
we don't know who the residents are yet.
The owner wants it as a selling point.
I think this commission looks at it as, they should. The full fence, I understand, and consistency in design. Right, and I think for, how many feet is that? Is a pool fence?
This would be a 6 foot fence.
Right, but how many, the length?
I think it's 120 feet. 100 feet. 100 feet even.
I think this commission would really like to see it as the same fence. And you're saying no, that,
We're not agreeing to that condition. No,
It's not really a safety item. That fence is as safe as if not safer, it's non-climbable. It will tie in at the corners with the other ones, so you can get through it. I have a vinyl fence on one of my properties, and with the wind, those vinyl slats actually blew through, so someone could get through it. The wind is going through that, it's not pushing the vinyl section over. But if a tree falls on it or something, or a branch, it survives a lot better than vinyl.
Just a question on that type of fence for where that area is. I understand the seeing through. There's a, looks like a connector road for B and L back there. Do we have to worry about dirt or anything when it is windy or in the summer months when it's dry, of dirt flying into the proposed property, and then it becomes more of a,
It's gonna go through the fence, it's gonna go over the fence at that distance. There is, in the condominium documents, there is something alerting all the potential owners, right? Owners or renters that it's near a construction site.
there's an industrial use in the back, and it's not, you know, you can't complain that it's a nuisance because it's pre-existing non-conforming use. Permitted. And, you know, that's, the owner understands that and will be disclosing that to all the potential occupants.
And that would be.
The road is 30 feet
standalone,
down.
right?
Yeah, it is a big slope, 30 feet down. It's not like the trucks are right there. It's down, but there's a nice view.
I'm not trying to belabor the point here, but I understand you want it as a selling feature for potential renters and or owners. But why wouldn't the consideration for the abutting property owners be considered first?
From the, I don't know what consideration there is looking from a road with a pond on it onto this property.
Well, from abutting properties looking up, you can see through where a solid PVC fence that you mentioned is on the rest of the property, you wouldn't see into the location.
What are you seeing? You're seeing the side gable end of a building. You know, that's basically what you're seeing, whether there's a fence there or not. You're not, well, I don't know what you're protecting the property owner from, but it's not a unreasonable.
Wouldn't it be protecting the residents from headlight glare and truck noise and so forth, especially
If,
in the winter?
okay, if in 10 years, the association wants to put up a different fence, they have every right to do that. So
It's also 30 feet down in elevation, so
Right.
it's not the same.
And
level.
trucks travel, south to north, and they'll never shine the lights onto the property. Road travels the other way.
Other questions?
Back to the 30,000 gallon water tank. Where were the alternative locations proposed if it wasn't gonna be in the original location where the fire truck drives in?
We got confirmation from the Old Saybrook Fire Chief that it was fine to be there, so there was no
Okay.
alternative location.
Because the hoses come out into two different locations.
We worked with, actually, the fire chief sketched this and we drew it formally. So for his action plan with the tankers there and all the hose runs that we show around the buildings, showing the tank right there in the roadway. No truck has to park on top of it to access it. There are dry hydrants off to the sides that they can access from the street. So once it's under the road, it doesn't affect anything else adversely.
Yes,
A
Ron.
learning curve question. When something's approved with a condition, what does that mean? Does it, they don't get final approval from the zoning till the condition's met, a permit isn't issued? Just how does it work?
All right, Chris.
So there can be conditions that the plans are revised, a number of different things. Some of those conditions would be before. So once you make an approval, I issue a certificate of zoning compliance saying they met your conditions. Sometimes there's conditions that, I can issue the certificate, but in the end, they need to prove certain things or do certain things in the end.
Okay.
So it could work a few different ways.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, typically if the commission approves it and we have to modify plans or present like a specification like the block wall, those things can kind of be done right away. Like the legal documents are going to need to be reviewed and approved. We talk a lot about the legal documents, there's been drafts, but attorney will have to sign it. So those are all typical conditions. And they can't move ahead to like what's called zoning compliance and building permit until those conditions are satisfied.
Thank you. And that part is all between you and Chris?
Correct.
And then the project, okay.
That's correct. Hopefully. Assuming there's no issues.
I just want to thank you for really designating the snow catch area, and on this map, the no permitted snow storage area in the neighbor's protected well radius. I appreciate that, and I'm assuming based on what you said that this map will be part of the HOA document or something like that. So appreciate that a lot.
The final plans will be referenced in the condominium documents. And Ed may even add some language about, permitted snow storage in that area too, that if someone's not looking at the plan, just so it's in there in writing.
Yeah.
And any management company that's gonna remove the snow from the site will sign a contract, and when they sign the contract, they have to agree with this.
Do we have any additional referrals that haven't been recorded?
Joanne, you read those all into the record, Mike, correct, the last meeting?
Yes.
So yeah, since we did the fire marshal, I think we've addressed everyone. Those referrals went out February 9th, I believe, or January 30th. I apologize. At this point, I think we've heard from everybody. I think we're gonna hear.
Okay. Since this is a public meeting, we have people online and in audience, that if you wish to speak in favor of or against, we ask you to, identify yourself before you start speaking, and we'll begin first with the, audience here. Yes.
Again, my name is Meredith Devani. D is in Delta, E is in Echo, V is in Victor, ANNEY. I'm speaking on behalf of my grandmother, Madeline Tooker, who lives at 836 Middlesex, right next door. Her home was built in 1950 and she's lived here for over 7 decades. It's a home where her family has gathered for generations, and the land besides her home, the one in question tonight, it once belonged to my great-grandmother, who lived much of her life there as well. When the family looks at that land, we don't see a development site, we see a place where our family's connection to this community began generations ago. Over the past year, this proposed development has weighed heavily on my grandmother. She's elderly and the uncertainty about what could be built next door has caused her countless sleepless nights. The thought of such a dense development being built beside the quiet neighborhood she's known for so long has been deeply upsetting for her. I understand that the state's affordable housing laws place towns in difficult positions, and I respect the goal of creating housing opportunities for people with different incomes. But the goal should not mean that developments are forced into neighborhoods in ways that are out of scale for their surroundings. The proposal is significantly denser than the homes that surround it, many of which were built in the 50s and 60s on larger residential lots. A development of this size would change the character of the neighborhood in a way that cannot be undone. Beyond the character of the area, I hope the commission is carefully considering the real impacts on local infrastructure, on the traffic, drainage, the strain that a dense development can place on a neighborhood, roads, and utilities that were never designed for the development of this intensity. Old Saybrook has already worked really hard to provide affordable housing opportunities. Your community has shown willingness to do its part. The residents are asking for tonight is balance, housing that fits thoughtfully within the character and the capacity of the neighborhood that it's proposed. Not on a lot that's of this size that town zoning would never have previously approved without the state 80-30 G law. My grandmother's not normally someone who speaks at meetings like this. She simply hoped to spend her last years peacefully in the home that she has cared and paid taxes on since 1950, surrounded by the familiar neighborhood she's known for so long. State law may create pressure, but it does not remove your responsibility to protect the character and the safety of this community. If this proposal truly does not belong here, I respectfully ask that you stand by your thoughts and opinions on that, even if it means allowing this matter to return back to the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone online wishing to speak, please raise your hand. Not seeing anyone. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Yes.
Hello again, everybody. My name is Dorothy Spada, S, P as in Peter, A, D as in dog, A. I realize Meredith is much more articulate than I am, but that this is with the state new laws. But I want you to, and I especially want the Whispering Winds team and our neighbor to hear us about the human side to this. You're putting 13 new homes in a little space next to our homes. My home has been there 195 years, generations of families. The Tokers have been there generations upon generations on both sides of the street. As we're not a typical neighborhood, but we are good to each other. We've all respected each other. We did have one that not so much, but we have. And so one of the things I just want to say, especially to the Whispering Wind team, whatever your name is that I don't know, we don't feel that you've heard the human side to this, and you don't really want to hear our concerns and our fears. These are real fears. These are our residents. These are our homes. These were our families, homes that we gathered together as a family with. And Mrs. Tooker has lived there, and I know she's in her twilight years, and she's just going to see this, her homestead, taken apart. And we do live with the fear. I know that you've done your due diligence with all of the things that we have brought up, but these are still real fears for us. And it's great anxiety producing to us. The whole idea, even when you were drilling or before you were drilling, testing for the wells, the people parking in my driveway, the trucks parked on the street, we can't get in and out. I've had sleepless nights over this. That overwhelms me. The lighting that you say is not a problem. There's a spotlight in my bedroom still. This is just all on the human side. I don't know. I don't know if any of you would want in an acre lot next to you, 13 homes put in it beside the house that's there. You probably wouldn't. You'd probably fight tooth and nail. So we just want to be heard as as families and as residents that have been here. We pay our taxes. We've been involved in our communities in many ways. And we do appreciate the commission. They have heard us and we did feel heard, but just realize that we are here, we live here. And so to add something new, it really speaks to us that where do we stand in this? Where are about us? So thumbs up. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah. My name's Louis Spada, 816 Middlesex Turnpike, last SPADA. We had concerns about the fire apparatus getting in and out of this place. I don't know if on paper it looks one thing, but if you stand in the driveway and look at it, it's gonna be hell if there's a fire in there. You got people leaving, there's no real, I mean, they say there's access. But once you get the human element into this, people trying to get out of there, you got fire engines trying to get in there. They say there's a 2.5 hour firewall. Paperwork says a lot of things, but in the end of it, will it actually be that? Or God forbid, it's wiring goes through the building. Then what do? There's a lot of things to look at when you put 13 units in 1.25 acres with only access points on the east side. It's not like they can come around the corner and come in from the other side. God forbid something happens in the middle house and you got people in the back trying to get out. Now you got all the fences up. Where do they go? God forbid you have a fire, like a gas explosion or something. We've seen that not long ago. I don't know what they're gonna have. I'm just bringing it up. That there seems to be a lot of things in 1.25 acres. My father-in-law used to call it a blivet. Put 5 pounds of stuff or 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag. Everything works great on paper. But when it comes down to it, what happens if it doesn't? What if you have that one day where everything decides to come unglued? Is there a chance of reviving something? Getting in there and doing what you gotta do? You know what I mean? You're gonna have families with children and everything in there. You know? I mean, fences and all that shit's great. But let's talk about the actual thing that's gonna hurt. Fire. And God forbid we have another winter like we had now. You get a contractor in there looking to make a quick hit. He's gonna push the stuff over. I don't have time to do that now. I gotta go to the next job. And then boom, there's a fire. You really need to look at the size of these parking lots and everything. And where they're gonna put this and where they're gonna put that. Everything looks great on paper. I just think you guys ought to think about that. You know what I mean? You couldn't put a house there before. The town of Old Saybrook wouldn't allow you to put a house there. There wasn't enough room for all this. Now you're gonna put 13 plus. It's just crazy. I've been to all the things with this, and it's just crazy. Yeah, the state says we need affordable housing. Well, he originally bought the property for a single family house. Now he's putting 13 because the state says he can. State doesn't know one way or another. They just want affordable housing. But why don't they put it someplace where it can be done and done right? Not trying to stuff everything in here. We gotta put this pipe just over here. You got 2 inches. It's gotta go right here. I wish you guys would take a walk over there, walk through the property with the plans, and actually take a visual of what they got. And if you feel up to it, that's great then. But actually walk on the property. Don't just look at the plans. Because on paper, stuff can look good. But until you put your feet on the ground and actually say, well, this is the driveway here. You got a building there that's so big. And then you got a building here that's so big. Well, where did that driveway go? Where's the parking lot? What if the guy comes in there with a big pickup truck? Parks in his spot. It's his spot. He can park there. But this parking lot now is screwed up. This is all stuff that needs to be taken into consideration before you allow something like this. Really. I'm sorry if I made anybody upset, but it's all true. And I've seen it go to hell in a handbasket when somebody had a good idea. And then at the end of it, oh, it wasn't my fault. I watched a lot of those programs in New Haven fall apart. I was a construction worker for 15 years down here. Put beautiful buildings up. Everything was great. Then all of a sudden the sewer didn't work and this didn't work. Next thing you know, they just bulldozer. It's all part of stuff we need to think about before we allow a good idea to be followed, to be acted on. Like I said, I'm sorry if I made anybody mad.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Yeah, I'd like to ask my engineer a question. Am I breaking any boundary lines? Even if it wasn't 8:30?
No,
Even if it wasn't 8:30, I'm not going on over any zoning lines, which you are allowed to go when you have 8:30, like you gentlemen know,
Doesn't make it right.
and ladies.
Sometimes because you can do something doesn't make it the right thing.
Yeah, I know, not in my neighborhood. That's what everybody says.
That's not what I'm
not gonna
saying,
say-
sir.
That's what everybody says. Okay, not my.
The only response to that is the town has a process. It was sent out for referrals. Everyone had a chance to comment on it. Town engineer did a thorough review. We replied to all of his comments. Everything's been addressed. Couple minor details on the tanks, which we have Kyle here, and everything else. And other than that, town engineer representing the town of Old Saybrook reviewed it and doesn't have anything remaining. The fire chief already developed this plan. He feels that it's very safe that this plan is implemented, even though not necessarily required, for all this. All that was offered, obviously, as additional safety measures. I think with all of that together and with the town engineer review, it's a viable project.
And I think, there was a statement that we haven't addressed their fears, and I disagree with that. Number one, where parking, cars are going to be driving and headlights are going to be shining. They asked us to remove vegetation and put up a fence, which will block, and we agreed to do that. There was questions about wells. So we researched all the wells in the area to determine how deep they are, what the yield is, to make sure that we understood we weren't going to be impacting those wells. There was a concern about plowing snow into the well radius, and we've addressed that, and we'll address it through, a restriction on the condo docks. So, we have their big fear is they don't want this. But we have listened to their fears and addressed that.
Not what any of us says now.
Can I just make one more comment?
Yes, go ahead.
My fear is that no one's gonna follow the condo docs, and then what? They get a slap on the wrist. My grandmother's well is contaminated because the snow that night was easier just to push into her well radius. So that all those chemicals seep into the ground, and then what? You give them a slap on the wrist.
want me to answer
You
that?
give
You want me to
your
answer
flower
that for
person
you?
a slap on the wrist. and
Your grandmother's well has been tested 20 times. I have it documented, 20 times because of the service place next door, and every time it came back clean, 20 times.
Okay. I'm not talking about the service place next door.
Okay, got it.
Okay? I'm talking about longevity of her well. So
Thank you.
that's my concern.
Thank you. I agree with what you two gentlemen had just said, except for one point. I'd still like to see that solid stuff tape fence. It's the only remaining point.
I get it.
Okay, I have to make that comment.
No problem.
Okay. We're at the point where we can decide.
Anybody online?
Anyone online wishing to speak for or against Whispering Pines? Winds, sorry. Not seeing anybody. Everybody in the audience has spoken that would like to speak. Okay. So we're at the point where, we can do a couple things. We can continue or we can close public hearing. What do the commissioners feel?
I think we could close them.
All right, so I will make a motion to close public hearing for Whispering Wings application for site plan approval for affordable housing development, CGS 8-30G, to construct 12 dwelling units and retain existing 2,453 square foot single family dwelling unit and 1,274 square foot appliance repair business at 846 Middlesex Turnpike, Assessors Map 63, Lot 5, Restricted Business B3 District. Is there a second? Second by Robin Kelly. Is there any discussion?
What's just a question on procedure? If I have two questions, I know we're just in the motion for closing public hearing, but is there an opportunity to just ask some quick questions after that?
There will be
Okay.
when we,
No, so once you close the public hearing, the discussion with the applicant will stop, so that's.
Okay,
The one thing is that any questions the board has, or I don't know if you're looking to close and continue and have the draft motions, or you wanna, discuss, sometimes it's good to have the applicant a little bit involved in the process with conditions, that way we can make sure everybody's in agreement. So if there's questions for the applicant.
if you have
at the time-
questions for the applicant, we withdraw the motion to close public hearing. Ask your questions and then we could proceed at that point. So I'll make a motion to withdraw my previous motion to close public hearing. Robin Kelly seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstains, passes 5-0. Now,
thank you. Hopefully it's quick.
whatever it is.
Two things, I'll just ask them at the same time. First, what are I guess I'll ask you, and if it's someone else, fine, procedures or requirements on certain number of dwelling units, certain number of people living in a location, necessity for a second egress or entrance exit to a property? Are there any requirements on that? If, let's say, the primary is blocked for whatever reason, does there need to be a secondary egress into or out of a property? Is that anywhere in any regulations that requires that or asks for that?
So there's no requirement that I'm aware of.
Okay. And then the second question is maybe for general understanding for both commission and public. I understand what the state rules are on an application like this. Should a town decide to vote against an 830G project, what happens then? Is the town sued by the applicant? Is there a formal process that gets kicked off? I'm just interested in that process.
Okay. So, well, to give you history, and I don't want to get into it too deeply, this application before you were on the commission was denied by the.
No, just person.
Was denied by the zoning commission, and we currently have an appeal in court. Right now, I believe we're stayed, is that the best way to put it? Attorney Casella, the applicant, has come back. So when we deny an affordable housing or any application, it can get appealed to court, just like when we approve an application, we can get appealed by the neighbors to court. So it works either way.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other?
Nope.
Anyone else? No. Okay. So I'll make a motion to close the public hearing as previously recorded. I won't reread what I mentioned before. Seconded by Robin Kelly. Any discussion about closing public hearing? Not hearing any, we'll move on to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstains, passes 5-0. What we can do at this point is, we can continue. Or the question also goes out if you need more, any additional information to deliberate, and given the circumstances and the complexity of this application and the timeframe that we get in, I would recommend that we have our ZEO officer along with our attorney make up motions for and against, so that we have that spelled out with the many conditions that have already been identified for our next meeting, which would be April 6th. Do I have to make a motion on that or not? No comments?
That would be very helpful.
Yep. Eric, John? Okay. You're okay with that?
We pretty much made a motion, so.
Yeah, I made the motion, so it's been seconded and to continue for that purpose.
Who's the second?
Robin.
For the.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So
Thank you, everyone.
One thing I will agree on, if you wanna have 91 Sheffield.
Can't address the commission after we close.
No, this is
Okay.
not something else.
Okay,
We're off of that.
okay.
If you wanna move 91 Sheffield to after the Hanford Commons up, and then we can do, Waterview and Van Wilgen's after, because I know there's people from out of town.
We can do that. So I'll make a motion to to amend the agenda for, Monday, March 16th, to move, Hannaford Common residences,
I think it's 91 Sheffield.
91 Sheffield, before 91 Sheffield would be, and move D and Wilgen
And Waterview,
and Waterview.
we'll go last.
You want to do those last?
Yeah.
After them?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you wanted to get that, not those.
No, we'll let them go ahead and then I'll come back.
All right, so we'll move Waterview landscaping to, the end after 91 Sheffield Street.
Yeah.
All right, second by Laura. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, passes 5-0. Thank you.
Just one thing, it has nothing to do with any application. During when a public hearing is closed, you can ask me or other staff member.
Are we doing, so we're doing 91 Shepherd?
So just because you closed,
Yeah.
if you have a question that I can answer or our attorney or something, it's talking to the public.
Hannaford what's next?
Right, we're moving, after Hannaford,
Oh,
it was
okay.
Waterview, so we're
Okay,
moving
just
that
wanted to know
down.
which
Yeah.
Waterview is going after 91.
Yeah, 91 Sheffield. So continuing public hearings, B, Hannaford Common Residences, application for site plan for affordable housing. DGS 8-30G amended affordability plan for 8 existing residential units. 9,313 square foot constructed at 99 Lynn Street, map 36, lot 87, Residence A District, and construction of a new 7,080 square foot for 31 bedroom unit, 9 affordable, at 76 Elm Street, 96 and 98 Lynn Street, map 36, lots 97, 98, and 98-1, shopping center, business B2 district, pedestrian node. The applicant is 76 LLC, 98 Lynn and 96 Lynn LLC. Agent is attorney Marjorie Shansky. Action decision by April 6th, 2026, or no later than April 7th of 2026. Attorney Shansky, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. I'm Attorney Marjorie Shansky, and I represent all of that the chairman just read. I'm here this evening with Mike, who is our site engineer. And online, Joe Versteeg, who's our code consultant, and Susan Fields, who's our landscape design person. And I think that's
Gianna.
who is online for Hanford.
Gianna and Hans are.
Oh, Gianna Bradford. Thank you.
Is
Thank
Hans
you, Ms.
also?
Beth. Hans? Is Hans there?
Yes.
Okay, then he's there as well. I can't see the screen, I can't read the screen from here.
Happens to me too.
There's a conversation with my ophthalmologist that needs to ensue. In any case, good evening. When last we were here, we presented the proposed development, and there have been through comments from the town engineer, some modifications to the plan, which Mr. Ott will share with you. And in the interim, we've also received correspondence from the fire chief and fire marshal, both of whom Mr. Versteeg had met with, and we have sign-offs from them. I don't remember quite, but we also have an endorsement from the planning commission. We have a finding of P O C D consistency for the proposed development. So I think we're on the way to satisfying the concerns that have been made by the commission, and I would ask Mr. Ott to share the updates with you and take your questions.
Good evening, just for the record, I'm Mike Ott, I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor. With Summer Hill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors in Madison. If I could, these top ones got wet on the way in, but these are, revised, architectural drawings that.
Does that replace the ones we got in our package?
Yeah, these are just architectural, yes, just build.
Just the building.
Yeah, we received them, Friday. So I talked with Chris and we decided that it would be best to just bring them up. Each package is one. So. Yeah, just the building units.
This is what we received by email.
That's good. They have to, that's another.
There's a nine.
Mine right here. And right here.
Oh, so it's just right there.
Okay, please come to the eager.
So, excuse me, so if you remember, last time we talked about, the comments we had received from Jeff Jacobson. And if you look at those original comments, not the comments we received this afternoon, but the comments that was dated February 25th, 2026, there was a comment. There were a couple comments about the drawings. One was that, let me make sure I can find it. One was about showing the building mounted lighting, which is shown on the drawings now. Okay. Elevation views of the drawings. And there was a comment about the town engineer wasn't able to verify the height. So the average existing grade elevation has been shown on the first sheet in the set of plans, and the building height of 48 feet 3 inches is shown, also shown. So I think that takes care of those two building related comments.
Can I interject at this point?
Sure.
One question on this, you have the note at the bottom about the do not scale drawing, verify all dimensions. If dimension is missing or in question, contact the architect for clarification. What we don't have on our drawings is the scale for us to verify your numbers. This is different, and what my understanding is that it's more geared towards site work so that the contractor cannot modify anything on the plans without checking in with.
Well, actually, so it's the architect's note, but I can explain it to you. So there's a graphic scale on the bottom right of the sheet, right above that note. And what that note is, that's a really common note that architects put on their plans. They typically are on construction documents. They're not typically based on land use permitting documents because they causes confusion. Chris called me about it today, and she and I had that conversation. So these drawings are to scale. You can scale them, and the graphic scale indicates the scale in the bottom right.
But it's not the scale that the commission and the regulations request. It differs from anything that I don't know about the other commissioners. I'm not familiar with this scale. I can't scale anything based on this because I've not seen it before.
The scale itself. So it's 1 inch equals 4 feet. It's not labeled, but that's how it lays out.
To our point is the scale that we've requested that is provided by all applicants is the ladder, so that it's something that we are used to working with.
We'll have to have them correct scale.
Okay, and I did make that request at our meeting 2 weeks ago. And I know the land use department has made that written request of the architects, at least a couple of times prior. So I'd like to get that, please.
I will ask them to do that.
So I think just to clarify, there's been not just this application, other applications where the plans are not scalable. They're more renderings and they don't have accurate floor plans and they don't have all the components that the commission is typically used to in reviewing a site plan. So when they take their architectural or engineering scale to go and verify what's on the plan is the 35 feet. Unfortunately, because of those discrepancies, it's not meeting the components of what's required in the site plan. So if we can just make that consistent as part of application submittals, it would save a lot of time and going through and revisions to plan if those minimum requirements were included on the plan.
I will, does anyone have an architectural skill with them? I know you guys usually have one of each.
We all do.
Yeah.
I left mine upstairs,
I
but
have mine.
you should have them in your packet, your bags. Yes, those.
Thank you. That's an engineering skill. Yes, that's good. That's good. I have to say. All right, so I will. Demonstrate.
We'll have that.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
It just makes it easier for regroup viewers to get that information beforehand and moves the process on.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
So,
Yes,
there were.
you have the architectural tour. She's got the architectural.
I just want to mirror, can I scale your plan? I just want to verify something before this.
Yeah, tons of them. Anyone who needs new scales, I have an abundance of them upstairs, so if you misplaced yours.
Makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, so that totally threw me off.
Sorry.
So that I think I said this, the lighting was another question, the lighting was shown. But on the elevation of view of drones. So there were also, comments about the landscape plan and the landscape designer submitted a revised landscape plan. We delivered those, last Monday.
So just to go through, I did talk to Jeff Jacobson this afternoon. And what happened was I assumed that you sent him the plans as well. So Jeff and I did go through, so for example, comment G1, we reviewed it, it met the regulation, he just didn't get that, so. As much as you can send plans to him too, we do our best to get everybody, but.
Just for the record, Chris, I don't send plans, I always send them here and deliver them, right? And I did that last Monday, I'd be glad.
Well,
to send
we've
them
addressed
there.
the issue anyway, I already spoke with him
It's
before
already
the
addressed.
meeting, so
Yeah.
it
but just for the record, I try not to send him plans directly. I always do, as I did last Monday, I delivered 9 films and I sent them electronically here. You're right, the point, it's addressed, so it's a non.
sometimes, here's a situation, it comes to me, I'm not here, it doesn't get to him or someone, so it just kind of we try to get that information out, just trying to move things along. It's not anyone's fault one way or the other, just help.
So there's a comment here, G2, that was in the original comments and it was repeated in the comments we received this afternoon. Again, and it's about the number of parking spaces in a line without an intervening landscape island. And
I'm gonna interrupt because I'm gonna try to make this easy. So the one thing that Jeff pointed out that he had a lot of remaining comments is typically with an 830G application, the applicant goes through and puts the sections they're gonna amend. The B4 section of the regulations was there, so he's used to seeing, we're looking for the intervening landscape island and so forth. And I said, I understand. So when you're reviewing this, when Jeff puts that wording in,
It's on the bottom, it's on page 6, please.
I'm several of the comments, it says that, this may be something that's included as part of the affordable housing amendment. So typically with an 830G, we just ask, we don't actually physically put it in the regulations for each development. So I think he's just kind of accustomed to seeing all those different sections. So when he didn't see it, he would say, okay, there's not an intervening island. There's not that, assuming that that was a part of the petition for this.
So for clarity, the 830G site plan is the governing document. Is it your preference that everything that is deviant go into the affordable housing plan, notwithstanding that it's represented in the site plan because we don't actually amend the regulations?
I think, just if there's a list, not that we would amend the regulations, just showing, so that was Jeff's struggle with the review, because he said, I wasn't sure
No.
if it was something that was overlooked and they intended to meet it or was part of the 830G, and they said, well, no, I think it was intended as part of the 830G.
Right.
It just wasn't spelled out as you've seen it in other applications. So we don't put it in, but it probably would be a bad idea just to put a little list as an addendum of those regulations for clarity. It may make it easier in the future.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Really messing you up, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm trying to make it easier for you so that you don't have to
So-
go,
Well, what I was going to say.
sorry.
Was that we recognize there's several comments in here. We recognize we haven't met the zoning regulations because it's an application under the affordable housing statutes. This is one of them. We know what the regulation says, but to get as much parking as we can, we did not add the intervening island. I just want to make sure the commission understands that we didn't just not know about the regulation or just ignore it or aware of it. We didn't do it purposefully, and we should have made the list that Chris is talking about. So that's what I was going to say. There's several comments like that. So we have two sets of comments. We have a set of comments that are dated February 25th that we received the Thursday before the last meeting 2 weeks ago. We have another set of comments that we received this afternoon for that maybe I should actually go through because they're much shorter. So Jeff's letter of today's date, if you all have it, tells you, as he usually does, which comments have been addressed and which haven't. And in this particular case, and it's not his fault, he didn't have all the right information, and he thinks some of the comments in today's letter, he thinks were not addressed, and they have been, and I'll explain. So the first one is comment number 3. This is really a moot, it's totally moot. So, but just for the record, it's moot because it's an affordable housing, again, it's affordable housing application. In this zoning district, the street line setback, the minimum yard requirement is 25 feet. We used 10 feet or 11 feet. We have that shown on our scheduled drawings on the title sheet. We had a note on here that I have removed for clarity based on his original comment. He must have missed this, but if you were to look at the set of drawings and look at the zoning standard schedule, the note he was concerned about is gone. I removed it. It's really a moot point because, again, because this is being done under the affordable housing statutes, we went with an 11-foot street line setback rather than the 25-foot setback, just like we did for the 3 applications across the street, 99, 101, and 109 Street. So that's comment 3. Comment 4 is regarding the architectural drawings. I'm sorry, A4, which we talked about. B2, we did not receive any comments from the police chief, the director of public works, or the fire chief, specifically regarding the on-street parking. Comment number 3.
There was one today from the.
So this afternoon.
This afternoon, late this afternoon.
I did not. Okay, no, it did come through. Okay, so should we get you through it or?
It pretty much summarizes that there's no issues from
Oh, good.
local traffic.
I don't need to review it.
So you don't mind me as I kind of keep interjecting, things were coming through today at 5 o'clock, so I was trying to
Sorry,
summarize, because we do have a lot.
sorry, I didn't know.
This evening.
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
So comment, I'll try to move this along. So, comment number 3 is the same comment about the location of the waste and recycling receptacles and the fact that when there's cars in spaces, nobody can get in there. We went through that last time. It applies, whether I said it or not last time, I don't remember. But it applies both to the contractor, the waste hauler that comes to the site, and it also applies to the residents. And there's a car in a certain space, they would have difficulty opening the doors. I went to today, this afternoon, I was in town, and I went to the 3 previous developments we did directly across the street, and there's 3 waste and recycling locations. 2 of them are clean of parking spaces. 1 is blocked partially. 2 spaces are actually partially blocked. So, and it works. So it's the same answer, same comment we talked about last time, same answer. He just got more specific this time about the residents also. I don't think he was as specific maybe the last time about residents, as I recall. So that's B3. B4, Jeff did not know this, but the bicycle rack has been moved on the revised landscape plan. Not Jeff's fault, he didn't see it, but it had, if you look at the.
Because he didn't have it, that's what, that's our, so.
That's what I mean, he didn't see it. He did. Comment number 5, he repeated, I guess he's just repeating what I said last time at the meeting. Just like the developments across the street, these are really tight when we're trying to get as much parking as we can. And when we're trying to provide, nice landscaping, a nice landscaping plan, it gets very difficult to provide an unlandscaped area within which to store snow. So the owner or their property management firm has to have a contract that removes snow depending on the snow events and how many happen and how quick they happen one after another. So if we go to C, he's correct. I should add another spot elevation. It's not a big deal. He read the existing gutter line elevation incorrectly. It's actually 20.0. If it was 20.6, I would have a big problem, but it's not. If you were to look at the plans, it's a difficult number to read, but I did verify it's 20.0, so it's an easy thing for me to add an additional spot elevation. E, sidewalks, he said the commission's legal counsel should review the pedestrian sidewalk easement document. That's common practice. We did that for the development across the street also. I'm not sure what comment 3 means, but we did provide sidewalks continuous across the driveways, I should say. It's not that. You look at the site plan, you'll see that. And then I'm on the last page now. This is the same thing. This is where number 1, F1, is where we probably should have listed the zoning regulation in compliance with regarding the 5-foot setback to the decorative lighting. Number 2 is regarding the building lighting that we talked about. And I think we talked about G 1 and 2 already. If I didn't do that correctly, or if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them. I think that addresses the town engineer's comments anyway.
Did you identify, I ever looked at your new drawing, the dumpster material, the enclosure material?
Oh, you mean what it's made of? No, we did not provide a detail of what the enclosure, how the enclosure is constructed.
It's required. The last of his comment on B3, I think, is the screening should be specified.
Oh, screening is specified. That's on what he means vegetation when he talks about screening. That's what he means, and that is on the landscape plan.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought you meant the actual construction of it, how it's built and what it looks like.
Okay.
This applicant, by the way, next time you drive, look at the ones across the street. He does a very nice job. They're all brick and the slate cap on top of it. Something else. I think that addresses the consulting engineer's comments anyway. There was a comment made by Casey and last time. I don't know if she's on.
She's not, yeah, tonight.
So I just want to address it just so she can see that I didn't ignore her. We did look at revising the layout of the parking. When I went back to my office and looked through my files, we saw that we had looked at that previously and evaluated it. We don't like it. It's not that it's a bad idea, but we don't care for it. And the applicant would prefer to leave it alone, leave the layout of the parking alone. But just for the record, the way it's laid out, in my opinion, doesn't present any problems. It doesn't present a stormwater problem because I don't even know if you've seen this, but if you've gone through this, that we submitted the stormwater management report a month and a half ago. You will see that no stormwater is discharged from the site. All the parking lot water and the building roof water is collected, treated, and infiltrated into the ground. So the additional pavement doesn't present a stormwater problem. In our opinion, it doesn't present an aesthetic problem. If you remember, the entire southern property boundary and the entire eastern property boundary are screened they are today actually, with overlighting. And in addition to that, if you look at the revised landscaping plan, I think Susan has done a real nice job with the trees that we planted along Lynn Street where you can see the parking lot. And then there's that island in the center that has, I think, 4 trees at least in it. I don't have the landscape plan with me, but you all should have that in fact. So again, we didn't ignore, we did go back and look at it. But we decided to leave the parking right out the way it is. Any other questions?
Commissioners? You have more to present?
I'm all set.
Do you, Attorney Sheets?
Yeah, I think that between the explication at the prior meeting and the revisions and the items that we will continue to supply to the commission, that's where we are.
I would like to make a comment if I could. I'm Hans Hansen, the architect.
Sure, go ahead, please.
Just in regard to the scale issue that you were talking about earlier, the reason I have a graphic scale on these drawings is because for most zoning meetings, I actually provide half-size drawings. And of course, if you have a half-size drawing, a written scale on the drawings would no longer be accurate. So just an explanation that these drawings are to scale. It's a graphic scale, and no matter how you print it, 8.5 by 11 all the way up to full size that it was provided, you can use that graphic scale as a representation to scale the drawings.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments?
I gave away my police chief.
Yeah, you want mine?
Didn't you have a comment about I did put it.
I'll give you your letter back.
Didn't you say something at the bottom about?
Talking about the measurement?
Yeah.
In his third paragraph, last sentence, proposed parking locations appear to maintain these clearances and avoid obstruction of driveway access. However, specific measurements are not provided on the submitted drawings.
Did I read that? I don't.
Yeah, give them that copy.
Here, everybody.
I'm not sure what he's talking about, but I can just tell you what the standards are. And I know that we've met them. He possibly may be talking about driveway, what's called driveway intersection site distance. So when a car is on the property and it's leaving and it stops before it turns onto Lynn Street, there's a requirement that that driver can see when they look left and they look right, can see a certain minimum distance, mostly, in this case, mostly based on the speed that vehicles travel on the road. If you look at the traffic report that we submitted as part of the record, you will see that the traffic engineer evaluated the driveway intersection site distances. He also looked at the ability for vehicles turning onto Lynn Street from Elm and turning on to Lynn Street from the Boston Post Road to make sure that those vehicles could see somebody pulling out of or pulling into the driveways on Lynn Street. I reread his report earlier today, so I'm quite confident it's in his report. If that's what the chief of police is talking about, I believe we've addressed that. It's a matter of, it's in the application, right?
Any other questions?
Derek had mentioned the potential sidewalks. When would that come up again?
So I think the planning commission mentioned to you when you referred it to that back when it came back to you, they talked about the potential for a sidewalk crossing Elm Street. In this meeting last time, we talked about, I think one member had a question about should we have crosswalk across Lynn Street, and I answered I didn't think so, and why. But with regard to the crosswalk across Elm Street, that crosswalk would be really, in my experience, a matter for the municipal legal traffic authority, which is, I believe, in Old Saybrook is your board of police commissioners, and the chief is the representative of that authority.
It's the chief.
And
The chief is the LTA.
just the chief?
It's my understanding. Yes.
Okay, so the chief, that would be a discussion to be had with the chief, with the director of public works, ultimately with the board of selectmen, because it's a town road, about whether a crosswalk is needed across Elm Street.
We did advance that conversation with our traffic engineer, and that was essentially the process that he described. It comes from another agency in the town.
So to answer your question, that would come after this process.
And I think we touched on this at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, and it had to do with the sidewalks being carried across the driveway.
Yes, I mentioned that earlier. You may not have caught it. We did do that. If you look at the revised plans.
You did do it.
Okay, well, yeah, I could flip to it if you want.
I might have missed it. I apologize.
No, that's okay. Yeah, we did do that. Should be able to see sheet. Well, you're gonna have a hard time seeing it from there, but if you look at your plan set, you will see that it goes across both driveways.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And speak to us about the lighting intended for the structure. It's all dark sky compliant, I understand, correct?
For the building?
Yeah.
I think the building designer is here. They can John or Hans, maybe John, can talk about that.
My question really has to do beyond the dark sky compliant, which is mandatory. Is there any uplighting
Yeah, there
on
is.
the building?
I'm sorry. Is it up, down, cylinder light? Up? That's what
The
you-
the lights at the mid-level height of the building, they are up washers as well as down washers. But I do believe they still meet the night sky compliance requirement.
They're gonna be the same as across the street.
So I think across the street was downlit only. We're not gonna get into that today. But our understanding of dark sky is no uplighting.
Can I share my screen again and show you the
Sure.
images of the buildings across the street? So you can see how those wall washers, they do shine up and down. They're not just down. And those are at the mid-level.
So if I could, Mr. Chairman, there shouldn't be an uplighting component. It will change the drawings. In order to be dark sky compliant, there cannot be an uplight component.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
May I pass this letter back again? Thank you.
Sure. I believe, Chris, there's some, our attorney needs to review the easements and the affordability and legal documents yet.
Yes,
It's not completed,
yes.
right?
That could always be a condition. You know, at the time,
We did send it directly to them.
he's been swamped, so.
I understand, and I will send him the revision that has the longer list of
Okay, perfect.
deviations from the zoning contained in it.
And I might have missed this, and I apologize if I did. Did we talk about the bicycle rack in Jeff's letter?
We did, she did, the landscape design removed it.
Move that.
That's over by the building now.
Okay.
On the new plan.
So to get a review letter in the afternoon of the hearing that looks as though there are still comments, but they're largely housekeeping comments in terms of this list of zoning alterations and you know, and we'll fix the lighting and the scale, but I don't think that there are any sort of major design issues or compliance issues.
Okay, commissioners, we're, at that point where, it's still a, open public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience or online wishing to speak in, behalf or against the application, please raise your hand at this point and identify yourself. Anyone in the audience? No? Anyone online? Nope. Okay, so we can do a couple things like we mentioned in the previous application. We can continue add this to our next regularly scheduled meeting. If you feel there's more materials that are needed, or we can close the public hearing at this point, knowing that once we close the public hearing, there's no questions asked of the applicant, only amongst the 5 sitting members of the commission. So I make a motion to close the public hearing for Hannaford Commons Residences application for site plan for affordable housing CGS 8-30G amended affordability plan for 8 existing residential units. And at 99 Lynch Street, Residence A District and construction of new 7,000 square foot per 31 bedroom units, 9 affordable at 76 Elm Street, 96 and 98 Lynch Street, map 36, lot 97, 98, and 98-1 shopping center B2 district pedestrian node. Seconded by Robin Kelly. Is there any further discussion needed? Not hearing any, move to a vote. All those in favor of closing public hearing, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, passes 5-0. We're at the point where we can deliberate or continue to our next meeting if you need more time to review materials. I again will state for the record that given the nature of the application and some of the matters that we have discussed here this evening as well as 2 weeks ago, that we consider having our attorney write either and our CEO officer to write motions for and against. So I'll make that motion. It would need a second. Second by Robin. Any discussion regarding that?
I just think that this is probably one in a long line of applications that's happened, since the state passed this law and will continue to pass this law where whatever a town's rules and regulations are almost irrelevant outside of public safety.
Public health and safety.
And that can be a challenge for us.
Well, we want to get it right.
Yep, exactly.
So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Direction,
Yes.
so you would have motion for and against.
Against.
I kind of have a list of items.
Sure.
That if you were to consider a motion tonight, I think I captured some of them, but
Okay.
obviously,
Go through them.
yes, so,
Biggest thing to me is,
Go ahead.
that's the biggest question I got in my mind, the conditions, who we're gonna put in.
So, after talking to Jeff Jacobson and the review by Mike Ott, I think Jeff Jacobson's remaining comment left that would need to get clarified more so would be item C1, which had to do with the grading. The remaining comments could be provided as a list of draft amendments to address those just the
Gutter line
so
elevation,
I'm sorry,
the gutter line elevation.
the gutter line elevations. C1, just I know that the applicant's engineer said there was a difference in the grading, whatever, but I think they could just discuss that, hash that out. Well, I think I'm not saying what the applicant's engineer said. I think it's something that can get addressed between the two engineers. So I think that was the last remaining comment, other than the uplighting. The lighting plan needs to be revised as well as the fixtures on the building so that they are downcast, dark sky compliant.
Attorney for affordability.
I'm working on.
Oh, sorry.
So, we discussed the 830G regulations getting expanded beyond the B2. The town's attorney will need to review the easements, affordability documents, and any amendments made by Attorney Shansky for legal documents. We talked about that. And I think that was everything that was brought up.
Don't they gonna add a scale? Fix the scale?
Well, you've closed the public hearing, so you can require that they put the standard architectural scale and
Okay,
provide
then I
those.
was-
No, you can do that, and then it would be in the file.
Should do.
I beg your pardon, I couldn't hear that.
Yes, but
The-
the scale on the drawings.
That the scales be amended,
Oh, that's, yeah.
so you can add that as well. And I think that's what I have left for outstanding issues, unless there's something else.
Adding the scale would be the last one. Okay.
So based on that, can we
Well, the motion's been made and seconded to, have,
where's,
between the CEO and the attorney draft up.
So typically, I'm gonna interrupt. The way that it works is the zoning officer makes a list of all the comments at the meeting and then we go through it with the attorney. So that's what I'm trying to get some information while we're all here, so I can include that all together for the motion.
With the motion, do we have a date? Continued date?
We're still working. We're not there yet. There's one.
So it would be continued to our next regularly scheduled meeting of April 6th. You already seconded or
I
not?
think so.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we had discussion anymore? Move to a vote. All those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstains, passes 5-0-0. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to the online team.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to our amended public hearing, starting with, let me turn the page here. B 91 Sheffield application for planned development district designation at 91 Sheffield Street, map 49, lot 2, Marine Industrial I District, Connecticut River Gateway Zone, Coastal Area Management Zone. Applicant owner 91 Sheffield Street LLC, agent attorney Marjorie Bishansky. Action, open public hearing, continue or close by April 6th, 2026, or no later than April 19th of 2026. Question for our CEO, since the two are interrelated between the application for special permit as well as this, do we hear them at the same time or separately?
So I think we should ask the applicant and attorney Shansky. There's discussion about opening the two agenda items into one public hearing for a discussion, both the PDD and the site plan, since they are interrelated.
I think Marjorie Shansky, for the record, represent 91 Sheffield LLC. I think that having them both open is useful. Obviously, you will vote them separately.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's okay with.
I think it is okay.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I'll read item C, which is 91 Sheffield application for special exception permit. 91 Sheffield Street, map 49, lot 2, Marine Industrial I District, Connecticut River Gateway Zone, Coastal Area Management Zone. Construction of 4 single-family residences with amenities. Applicant owner 91 Sheffield Street LLC, again, agent attorney Marjorie Shansky, and the action is open public hearing, continue or close by April 6th, 2026, or no later than April 19th, 2026. Attorney Shansky.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Attorney Marjorie Shansky, and this has been a years-long project. We were here several years ago to amend the old Saybrook zoning regulations with is now section 36, which is the planned development district, which is a floating zone. My inclination is to give you this background. If you'd like me to sort of cut it short, I'm happy to do that, but I think it's illuminating for the nature of the process and the questions that are being posed to the commission. So the commission adopted the planned development district, and it's a floating zone. It's available for landing. The floating zone in the MI zoning district, the Marine Industrial Zoning District, and we are here seeking planned development district on 91 Sheffield, which is an almost 10-acre site on Sheffield Street. And we come to you with the endorsement of the Planning Commission, who has found consistency of these applications with the Plan of Conservation and Development, specifically for the landing of the marine and of the Plan Development District on this marine industrial parcel. And we also come to you with the endorsement of the Harbor Management Commission. who has found consistency with the plan of, with their harbor management plan. I'm here this evening with Mike Ott, who is the site engineer. I'm here with Abigail Adams, who is the landscape architect. She's online. I'm here with Keith Nielsen, who's our marine engineer, and who has given us extraordinarily valuable information along the way. Who else am I here with? That's it. Okay. So, so the objective of the first application is to present you with a master plan of the development. The thing about a floating zone is that it has a two-step process where the master plan is adopted and landed on the formerly zoned site. And then the site plan is the detailed site plan is reviewed for zoning consistency with the standards in section 36. We also have a special permit, special exception application because we have structures that are over 3,500 square feet, which require a special exception in this location. So we are also subject to the Coastal Management Act. So we are not immunized from the Old Saybrook zoning regulations, but it's sort of cumulative. Things we're no longer subject to the marine industrial. That is to say, we're not designing to the marine industrial district. We're designing to the standards in the Plan Development District, section 36, and are bringing this master plan, which perhaps you'd like to discuss at this point.
Again, for the record, I'm Michael Ott, I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor with Summerhill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors. We know this is the first time you've seen this, hopefully you all have plans. Hopefully. And we recognize that we will be back. We haven't received any review comments from town staff yet. And we have to go to the gateway, we have to go before the Gateway Commission also. So we know that this is kind of an introductory, explanation of what the project's doing. We have, and we may have mentioned this, I apologize. We have a municipal coastal site plan review app. Okay, also as part of this. Abigail. So Abigail Adams is the landscape architect, and could you share your screen, Abigail?
I sure can. Did that show up for everybody?
Yes.
Yep. So if you could go to the overall site plan, Abigail. Oh, actually, can you go back to the photo? Sorry.
Sure, absolutely, no problem.
Yeah, I don't know how well the commission can see that from where you're sitting, but that's an ortho, that's in your plan set, that's an ortho photograph of a site. Might be easier to look at it in your plan set. So you probably all familiar with the site, but that photo gives you some context at least for where the site is. So the site is accessed off of Sheffield Street, as you can see. Saltus Drive is immediately to the east, and you can see the Saltus Drive residential subdivision on the photo. The Riverside Cemetery is immediately to the west, as you can see. And if you look to the north, if you scroll, that's great. You can see the extensive area of tidal wetlands that are on the site. Approximately, the site is approximately 10 acres in size, and approximately half of that is tidal wetlands. There is also a very small, relatively small, isolated inland wetland on the site. We've already been to your Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission and have approval of a regulated activity permit for activities within 100 feet of that isolated wetland. That the tidal wetland boundary and the inland wetland boundary are shown on the actual site plans, which we'll get to in a second. But I just want to, this photo, I think, gives you some context for the site. You'll notice that there are, in the photo, you easily see 3 buildings on the site. There's actually a 4th that has collapsed. You might be able to see in the photo, the debris, it's actually literally flat on the ground today. And it's north of the most northerly white roofed building. So there are actually 4 buildings on the site, and one of them's on the ground today. And all those buildings will be demolished. There's about a 700-foot paved driveway that comes from Sheffield Street, access driveway into the site. There was an overhead utility pole line that provided power and communication utilities. That the utility companies have now removed that overhead power utility line that ran through the site. It's shown on the survey that we did in the plan set, but it's gone now. It doesn't exist today. So Abigail, if you could go please to the overall site plan.
There we go.
Excuse me, the proposal is to construct 4 single-family detached homes. We have shown swimming pools for them. They're all served by septic systems, which have been reviewed and approved by the health district, by CRAD. There'll be a new driveway constructed with a turnaround, as you can see at the end. The driveway is 18 feet in width, with the exception of, when you first drive in, there's a widened section with a median in it, a short median. But in general, the overall width is 18 feet. New utility mains and services will be brought in from the street, all underground, water, gas, power, and communication. So all utilities will be underground. All stormwater runoff from the new driveway is collected and treated and infiltrated into the ground in the same manner as the previous application. The soils, we've excavated quite a few test pits on the site. The soils are very sandy and the groundwater table is very deep, 10 feet plus below the ground surface. So again, all stormwater runoff from the new driveway is collected and treated and infiltrated. It is not discharged off-site. Roof water from the 4 homes, or from 3 of the 4 homes, will just be discharged to the ground surface, like you would find in a typical residence, where the roof water leaders from the gutter system just come out and just come down to the ground and discharge. That water does not have to be treated because it's a residential roof and the soils are so sandy and the topography is so flat that roof water runoff from three of the 4 houses shouldn't be a problem, should not be an issue. The 4th house, unit 4, the largest of the 4, because of its location close to the isolated inland wetland that I mentioned earlier, roof water from that house is collected and directed to 2 roof water infiltration systems below the ground. So rather than having the water just be discharged directly to the ground surface, that water will be directed to underground plastic chambers, which are detailed in the drawing set. There's construction details for all of this that I'm talking about. Any questions at this point? I have just a little bit more to tell you, but if you have any questions, you're going to answer them.
No, please continue.
So this is pretty, I believe this is pretty straightforward. It's 4 single-family residential homes, just like the homes in the Saltus Drive subdivision that was approved in, I think, 2004, if I remember right. The there's a very, Abigail Adams will explain, the applicant had all trees on the entire property 6 inches or greater in diameter located by the surveyor. And the applicant hired Bartlett tree experts to evaluate each of those trees. And they wrote a report and we submitted that. Hopefully you have that in your packet. We submitted that as part of the application. Based on that report and the landscape architect's evaluation, Abigail, who will explain in greater detail, has created an extensive vegetation management and proposed planting plan. Vegetation management meaning the removal of invasive species, the control of invasive species, the removal of certain trees and other woody vegetation, and then the planting of new trees. In the landscape plans, there's an extensive, the landscape plans are a separate set of drawings that you should have, but there's an extensive planting plan included in the landscape plans. In addition, did you have a question?
I don't know if this is the right time to ask it, but you're talking about all these trees, and I see on the other set of drawings, the eagle's nest. Kind of caught my attention, and I said, well, how does that affect taking trees down, moving trees from this whole construction? Are there regulations about eagles?
The timing of activity.
So Abigail will tell you about that. That tree's not gonna, of course, be removed, and Abigail will explain the tree.
Is there, okay.
Yes, federal law that requires.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
So we go forward with our zoning review as we would normally. And deep and federal law protects the eagles.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of a moot point for this commission. It's for the state and the federal government to regulate. Obviously, we want to see that tree protected. But there are timing and other regulations that are being monitored by deep for construction and other activity.
What I read was whether it's in season or out of season, can't take any trees within 330 feet of the nest. I don't know if that's true. I read that. And if it's an active nest, it's 600 feet. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I don't know, but
So
that thing kind of, it's right in the middle of this whole development.
So like everyone has said so far, I'll just kind of, maybe I can summarize it. There's definitely federal law, I can't remember what it's called. I wasn't familiar with it, I read about it too. That protects eagles, and there's all kinds of, not only that, there's a biologist from the Connecticut DEP that's been on the site more than once, that's in contact with Chris. I think he was in contact with you recently, Chris?
Last week I heard from them,
Yeah,
so
so
it's
that'll,
being monitored.
yeah, like Chris said, that'll definitely be monitored, and whatever those regulations are, the applicant will have to comply. So now I should tell you that when Abigail prepared this extensive vegetation management and landscape plan, no one knew about the eagles. I don't even know if they had been set up yet on the site. So she prepared these plans quite some time ago. So she will get into that. There is also because this site is within the coastal boundary and we're subject to the Coastal Management Act, we have shown a public access walkway system. I'll call it a system now because it's gotten expanded. On the site, there'll be signage, public access signage out on Sheffield Street that will let people know that there's a public access walkway within the site. And when people walk into the site, they will see public access signage that identifies where the walkway is. The plans that were submitted to you only shows the eastern part of the walkway. Abigail will show you, there's been a lot of discussion with the Harbor Management Commission, and Abigail will show you her revision to the plans, which you will see eventually, that shows additional public access walkway on the site. Part of the public access walkway is, I don't think we need to get into great detail about it tonight, but just so you're aware, the commission's aware, part of the public access walkway will be constructed by the applicant. And part of the public access walkway, specifically the western portion that Abigail will show you, is going to be located within an easement in favor of the town. And at some point, should the town choose to, they will construct that portion. So this came up after we submitted these drawings. We decided to not submit revised drawings now because again, we haven't received any comments yet and it would kind of be a waste of paper. So, but I wanted to tell you about it and Abigail will show it. In addition, before we started this project, there was a Phragmite control program in progress. I think it's the Sheltered Cove condominiums. If you were to look at that photo to the north and northwest, kind of, were involved in it. I think the group called the Friends of North Cove were involved in it. It's a little complicated. It takes permitting to start that program, and only certain contractors with certain certifications and licensure can do it. But this applicant has agreed to participate in that Phragmite control program because he now owns, as you can see, about 5 acres of tidal wetlands that front, of course, on North Cove.
Could you please go back to the site plan, Abigail, and talk about the setbacks?
Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you.
Going to.
So on existing, if you go to the existing conditions plan, it might be easier, Abigail, at first.
Yes,
So on that plan, and I can't tell from here whether they're blue or not.
they are.
They are, okay.
Yes.
So starting waterward, closest to the water, the blue line with the dark triangles is the tidal wetland boundary. And then moving landward inland, the next blue dash line, and it's labeled, is 50 feet offset from the tidal wetland boundary. That is the special tidal wetland setback defined in the town zoning regulations. Can't remember the section number, and I think Chris will correct me, but I think that's the right number. So.
I think it's 68.1.2 B4,
68.1.2 B4.
or maybe B10, you can get it for you.
The next line, another 50 feet in, so 100 feet from the tidal wetland boundary, the blue line is the 100-foot gateway riparian buffer area that's defined in your zoning, in the gateway district section of your zoning regs. So, and then you will, if you look closely, you'll also see a 100-foot upland review area around that isolated wetland. So there's 4 sets of lines: the tidal wetland boundary, 50 feet inland from the tidal wetland boundary, 100 feet inland from the tidal wetland boundary, and then 100 feet around the inland wetland. And again, so Abigail, could you go to the that same zoom to the overall site plan, please?
Yes.
So you'll see that the homes are not within the 100-foot gateway riparian buffer area, but they're outside of it. The only activities within 100 feet of inland wetlands will be the walkway system, which is allowed under the regulations if we keep it at 5 feet, and the vegetation management and planting activities, and the demolition and removal of those buildings that happen to be in or partly within the 100-foot zone. But again, if you look closely, you'll notice that the proposed construction, the houses, the swimming pools, the septic systems, are all outside of that 100-foot zone. Regarding the septic systems are all greater than 100 feet from both tidal wetlands and inland wetlands.
Mhm.
So those are the setbacks that Attorney Shansky had mentioned. There's also a special flood hazard area zone on the site. That line is labeled. I think Abigail is tracing it now. So there's an AE 11, elevation 11 special flood hazard area zone from that line waterward towards the water. And then outside of that line, landward of that line is no longer a special flood hazard area zone. It's flood zone X. So it's not a special flood hazard area zone. The homes, units 3 and 4, are located partially within the special flood hazard area zone. The grading around those units has been done so that in the floor elevations of the buildings of the 2 homes have been set so that they're in compliance with the town's floodplain management ordinance. And it also sets it up for the applicant to apply for a letter of map change to FEMA to remove the special flood hazard area zone designation in the future. So ultimately, those 2 homes will not be within a special flood hazard area zone. I should say for the record, because sometimes this gets confusing, but there's no prohibition. A home can be located within a special flood hazard area zone as long as it complies with the National Flood Insurance Program regulations, the state building code, and the town's floodplain management ordinance. So for instance, there's no basements. If you look at the architectural plans for those 2 homes, there's no basements because as it stands with the designation in place, basements are not allowed. And the floor elevations are set 2 feet above the base flood elevation. They're set at elevation 13. The base flood elevation is 11. So the idea was to show them in compliance now, but the applicant would like to go through that letter of map change process if you're familiar with it or if you've heard of it in the past. There you'll notice there is a detached garage. Actually, the garage is connected by a covered walkway to the unit 4 house also. On the revised plans, I think you'll notice that there's no swimming pool shown for unit 1, but on the revised plans, we've shown a swimming pool for unit 1. So ultimately, when we submit those revised plans that show the new walkway system, you'll see a swimming pool south of unit 1. In addition, the unit 3 house has been shifted a bit and its driveway's been shifted a bit to accommodate the easement along the common property boundary with the applicant's property and the cemetery to accommodate the easement for that future western section of the public access walkway.
I don't think so. So that is an almost 10-acre parcel, over half of which is constrained by these setbacks, each of which is being honored. And so we have a reconciliation of conservation and development that's appropriate to the site. And as I mentioned before, the Inland Wetlands Agency has approved the regulated activity permit in connection with house number 4. Sure.
So there's also a private dock shown, as you can see in the northeast portion of the property. So Keith Nielsen, who is here, will in his presentation, he'll explain more about that. But I just wanted to point that out.
Sure, and then Abigail can talk about the landscape.
Marjorie, would you like me to stop sharing for a moment so that Keith can do his presentation?
Would I like you to what?
Would-
Oh,
Stop sharing so that Keith can do his presentation, or would you like me to do mine first?
thank you.
Okay,
He has his own boards.
great.
Good evening, I'm Keith Nielsen with DACO, formerly now Sound Engineering Associates. And I've prepared a lot of the information that has been utilized during the various considerations of plans for this site over the last several years. I think I first started working on this site 8 years ago. I did have some coincidental history with this site 40 years ago when I first started my career in waterfront development, because the surveying company that we used for hydrographic surveys was located on this site. And one of the first, and like I said, they're a hydrographic survey company. They utilize a boat and go out to different sites and have electronic instrumentation that tells water depths and creates a very accurate survey and bottom profile. And they worked in the building. That was this concrete building, more or less in the foreground. And when I first visited the site, I thought that this was an interesting usage for a hydrographic survey company to have waterfront access like this. But Mr. Simons, who was one of the principals of the company, quickly dispelled that point of view. The water was so shallow in this part of the cove and the creek and so on that boating usage, boating activity, and access for their survey boat in particular was not practical. They took their boat by trailer anywhere they went, even if it was just around the corner. At any rate, my drawing here has been colorized a little bit crudely, but I think you will see the point. As I mentioned in my analysis accompanying the application, this is somewhat of a T-shaped parcel with a long stem being the access point coming in from the south. This green area is all tidal wetlands vegetation and was marked by our reputable tidal wetlands and wildlife biologists, scientists. He's very good and been working with us for 40 years. The green line represents the actual limit of the tidal wetlands vegetation. This dashed line that runs through the site is that that flood boundary that I referred to. The yellow line is the zoning 50-foot setback. This next line is the gateway setback, and this blue line over here is the setback from the inland wetlands. And what you can see, a little bit hard to see with all these lines on this page, this is what's left as land that can be developed outside of all those boundaries. It effectively precludes a meaningful water dependent use on this site. And my letter from 5 years ago and updated earlier last year goes into that in a fair amount of detail. This is what we're left with. And we do have a dock facility included in this site plan that would serve for these 4 houses. And we had an application in before the DEP, but they asked us to withdraw the application until the zoning issues are all taken care of. And so we did. I'd like to switch over now to the landscaping plan that has been briefly discussed, because this, again, somewhat crudely polarized version shows the paths, at least as they were known last week and as they were presented to the Harbor Commission. It shows extensive landscaping throughout the setback areas. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And I didn't color in all the tidal wetlands, but I colored in the frame so that it would be clearly discernible. And then we get down to my part of the project, which is the dock. And this is a dock specifically designed for this site, taking advantage of a somewhat north-south orientation so that the fixed wood pier, which will be pile supported, is elevated 6 feet above the ground so that the sunlight can come in to meet the dock from the east in the morning and from the west in the afternoon. We span all the way across the tidal wetlands with the pier and the ramp, and we have a floating dock out in the section of North Cove where the water is deep enough to accommodate the float and boating activity. And and this is a tight squeeze because the farther north and west that you go in here, the shallower the water gets. And these docks will be somewhat limited at low tide. The water depth will be 1 to 2 feet, but at normal tide ranges, the boat will have fairly straightforward access. And we're talking about small to mid-sized motorboats, 20, 25, 27 feet, outboards mostly. The environmental considerations that we went through with regard to the docking facility were all in deference to DEP stated preferences for this site and this particular usage. Like I said, we're looking forward to getting this back into them as soon as the local zoning issues are met. The DEP did state in our first conversations with them between 5 and 8 years ago that they were concerned that developing a marine water dependent use on this site raised a lot of questions in their mind as to whether or not they would even approve it. Because we would have so much impact on wetlands, we would have so much impact on dredging. A lot of the project would become almost unaffordable because of the dredging complications. And dealing with state and federal agencies on the same development issues makes it more complicated because their programs are not necessarily coordinated. We have requirements from each that all have to be considered and accepted by one and all. And so when we compare it to the development that is now proposed, we have tidal wetlands that we are crossing, and we're doing it with a fixed wood pile and timber pier that has proven itself in terms of design characteristics over the past 40 years to be an acceptable design. Floating docks are utilized so that we can minimize the number of piles that actually have to be driven in the code. And the hinged ramp is a necessary transition point between the fixed pier and the floating part that's always moving. And in addition, the path system provides access for all 4 of the property owners and has some appurtenances to it for the public access that has been previously referenced by Mr. Rock. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
The last page of your report, it says, no development proposal can overcome a prejudice disposition. That seems to be the problem here. What's the prejudice disposition? What's the nature of it? And this report is a year old, so has that changed?
It has changed. I think that everybody that.
Well, let's start with who had the prejudice disposition to start with.
Well, it was the Harbor Management Commission. So.
What was the nature of the prejudice?
I don't know that I'm really the one to try and paraphrase their position, but basically it was marine commercial land, marine industrial land, and they didn't want it to be changed.
Yeah, if I may, the perspective of the Harbor Management Commission in our prior iteration was to preserve as much MI land as possible. And
what's MI?
Pardon me?
Marine
Industrial. And the objective of Keith's site suitability analysis from which you're reading was to establish not only the history of the parcel, but the regulatory impediments to water dependency and the condition of the cove, which was not welcoming of a meaningful marine use. And in our prior work with the Harbor Management Commission, they did not overcome their sort of resistance to the idea of the change, although they acknowledged that they were not a zoning commission, that, you know, that wasn't their thing, but the loss of marine industrial designation was their concern. So our goal was to demonstrate that it didn't mean anything from a true construction perspective, that in my narrative accompanying the application, where I have a segment of the zoning map, which shows that this parcel is surrounded by residential uses. That from a plan of conservation use consistency perspective, given the shortcomings and the limitations associated with the site, that it was an appropriate candidate for this change and this low density balancing of conservation and development, where the attributes and functions of the tidal wetlands would not only be maintained but enhanced, because this invasives exercise will make the flood control and the other functions of the tidal wetlands increase and be more robust. So this year, in coming back with our revised plan and in conversation with them, adding yet more public access, they found that there was a consistency with the harbor management plan to which they could relate. And that was the basis for their endorsement of the project at this time. Section 22A 93, paren 16 of the Connecticut General Statute, which is the Coastal Management Act, sets forth that public access is within the definition of water dependent use. So that there is no concession to water dependency under the Coastal Management Act when you have public access. And we had included public access. And as I say, in our couple meetings with them, we found a place to make more robust the public access component, and that elicited their both collaboration and approval. I hope that's illuminating, responsive.
Is there any thought or plan to, since this is public access, to have any lighting?
There's seating. There's seating.
Okay, there's no electricity.
There's no electricity. I mean, that would sort of be counter. First of all, most public access is dawn to dusk. It's not 24 hours. And I mean, for the species, we don't want to put lighting that is attractive in the
night. What about the boats, the dead batteries, you know, that sort of thing? That's why I asked about power.
Yeah.
You meant power to put it down. Right?
Yeah.
There wouldn't be any power anywhere along there. Going up and out to the dock.
I had anticipated originally that there would be power to the dock, and that there would be plugs on power posts on the pier, on the float. The way the post would be charged.
But there's no intention to light the site.
And this is a time proven method. It's wood chips. You know, we're not trying to make it any kind of hardscape or anything like that. It's pretty natural material.
Could I just add on Micah again for the record? So as Marjorie has, it said, public access walkways are usually dawn to dusk. You have one that you have more than one, but the one I can think of in town is off of Whispering Cove. Is it Whispering Cove?
Whisper Cove.
Whisper Cove Road. There's a walkway very similar to this. If you drive in there, you'll see a sign that says something like public access walkway. I took a picture of it, but I don't have it with me. But and that walkway goes down to the tidal wetlands and then what runs along the tidal wetlands. And it's nothing more than a simple path, and there's no lighting, and it's dawn dusk.
It's a
You
standard,
have others in town, for
it's a
sure.
standard DEEP sign. And in both of the cases on our eastern and the lateral public access, there's a spur on the one against the cemetery that leads down to seating. So there'll be two different opportunities for the public to gaze at the tidal wetlands, and
So it's just for viewing.
it's just for viewing, yeah.
And to take a walk.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, Keith, can you show that?
Sure. Here's the path, here's the path that runs,
Clarify that, ask the question.
here's the path that runs along the north edge of the cemetery. Okay,
In this room.
and there's a spur over here to the tidal wetlands. I don't know if you can see that. It's not very pronounced. And then the second one comes over here from the east side of the drive and goes up the east side of the property. Here's the access point to the fixed pier, and then there's a step that goes off here about 50 or 60 feet.
Right, because
To
there
the
isn't any
west.
access to that here for the public that could.
No.
It's a private drive, right? There'd be a gate.
But you can haul in like a stand-up paddleboard, go to the end and launch if you'd like. You can bring a small, you can't, or it's just,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, what can the public do once they walk till the end? Just
That's
view
it.
and sit?
It's for walking and
Okay.
viewing, right?
Proposed for viewing only.
Okay.
There is a
There's
municipal
benches.
down the way.
Right, but there's no access to the water.
There's no public access
Okay.
onto the
Right.
water here.
That's right.
It's just the dock facility for the residents.
Same exact thing on Whisper Cove Road, same
Okay.
thing, if you go take a look at it, we'll see.
I have another question. The inland wetland upland review area of 100 feet. Does this fourth house?
We have approval from the wetland.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that was the, okay, the minutes.
It was actually
Okay,
part of that application, yeah.
If you'll see, this blue line that I've enhanced here, this is where it was modified.
Okay.
Okay, for that house. That's the tidal wetlands right there. I'm sorry, the inland wetlands.
So then I think Abigail would be next to talk about.
Excellent. Share my screen again. We'll get to my plans. Okay. Did that pop up?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Good evening. For the record, my name is Abigail Adams. I am a registered landscape architect and owner of A2 Land Consulting out of New Fairfield, Connecticut. And I'll be presenting the proposed landscape improvements here at 91 Sheffield. I would like to start by noting that the property has been reviewed and studied by several consultants, as Mr. Ott said, especially in 2024. Bartlett tree experts were hired to prepare a report assessing 292 trees over 6-inch diameter on the back portion of the property. So Bartlett's tree report and assessment was mainly focused on this back area of the site. And this report became a guiding document in determining the trees that should be removed for health and safety reasons and which trees we should try to retain and work around, especially in the vicinity of the wetlands, the gateway, setbacks, etc. So just start off by noting that. The plans are very busy. There's a lot of information going on. So I'm just going to break it down very briefly in the fact that the trees that are shown in a green symbol were deemed in good condition per the report. Trees that are in yellow are in fair condition. Let me zoom in just a little bit so I can share that. Here you can see some green symbols, some yellow symbols, poor condition, black trees are dead. And anywhere we have an X on a tree means that the tree is proposed to be removed. The black X over tree symbol indicates trees to be removed as recommended by Bartlett. Red X indicates trees to be removed due to construction. Again, I'm talking about the rear portion of the property. Purple X's are trees to be removed because they are invasive species, such as Norway maples, trees of heaven, and black locust. And then the blue X's are trees to be removed per the applicant. Within the front portion of the property, let me get to, let's see. Oops, not quite there. You can see the red X is that we are removing the trees based on construction, need for constructing the driveway, better screening, planting plan, tree plans, and all of the utilities related with the units. Let's see. New material obviously is proposed for replacement, which I will review in just a moment. In addition, I'm going to go back to that main overview plan here. In addition to the tree removal and general cleanup on the property, invasive plants have taken over a large portion of this site. The invasive plant material to be removed is based upon Davison Environmental's mapping of invasive species and their associated report. On-site invasive species include mugwort, Phragmites, Japanese honeysuckle, Asiatic bittersweet, burning bush, multiflora rose, among some others. We have invasive plant removal notes in the notes and details sections of our plan. However, a thorough plan will be developed and implemented by a licensed applicator when and if herbicides are needed. Likely All Habitat, the same company that managed all of the Phragmites removal within the tidal wetlands that Mr. Ott was describing earlier, will likely be the company to manage this removal. In order to offset the trees and plants being removed on site, both due to construction and because of the invasive removal, we'll focus on species that are native to Connecticut and relatively salt tolerant. As guides, we used the green Old Saybrook Community Tree and Shrub Planting Guide, as well as UConn's Connecticut Coastal Planting Guide with Pollinator and Wildlife Value, dated March 2021, just as guides and recommendations for what Old Saybrook likes using and what makes sense for these coastal areas. Let me get to one of my planting plans here. I'm going to start with the overall planting plan shown here. Plantings inside the gateway buffer, that 100-foot setback, that a regulated area that Mr. Ott was describing earlier, that's this location here. Inside this conservation zone is included New England coastal salt tolerant grass mix. That is going to be the main material that is planted for all of the disturbance related to the construction of removing the existing buildings that are within that gateway zone, with any of the debris and invasives that are removed. That is going to be the ground cover layer that we're going to be using. Within that, we are placing trees throughout the site and pockets of shrubs and perennials, including red maples, eastern red cedars, serviceberry, American holly, chokeberry, clethra, witch hazel, winterberry, viburnum asters, indigo, among many other shrubs and plants that we're using. Similar native material is also proposed in the area upland of the existing wetland. As you can see, we have a very extensive replanting plan in this area. Any of these symbols that you see here, these are all new trees, new shrubs, new perennials that we are installing throughout the entire site as an enhancement. Buffer and screen plantings adjacent to neighboring parcels, so I can start here, include green giant arborvitaes. That's going to be a hedge, and that is going to work around the perimeter of the majority of the property. As we get much closer to the tidal wetlands here, we have switched material, and that would be the northern bayberry. Along this property line, running along the cemetery, and as you can see, my plans are showing that access pathway that was discussed. by Keith just a moment ago and reviewed by Mr. Ott as well. We have the path adjacent to the cemetery, and then again, a row of green giant arborvitaes in order to provide some privacy and screening to the Unit 3 home and pool. As we move towards the west, that opens up to more of a mixed buffer that's going to have American hollies, serviceberry, witch hazel, and sumac to the west as we move along that corridor here. Switch plans for a moment. I am going to now head down to Sheffield. I've got some enlargements here. This is Sheffield, and this is our main entrance into the property. At the main entrance of the property, the intent is to beautify and create a four-season interest streetscape at the main entrance. We are proposing to flank the driveway with 2 large sumac trees and then underplant those with massings of dwarf honeysuckle, hydrangeas, potentilla, junipers, ornamental grasses, and ground covers. As we move into the site, that's our match line there. Along the perimeter, we're proposing skip laurel, and then in front of that, some dwarf honeysuckle, the Kodiak orange for a little bit of interest, some ornamental trees. And this is the main entrance drive that Mr. Ott was describing, where we have a small median. The driveway will split, entry gates here, and then we have a pedestrian walkway for the public access. The sign is down by Sheffield. Sorry if I'm shifting the plan too much. I apologize for that. Here is our walkway coming through, and you can move right into the site, and then you continue to walk up the drive and continue past Unit 1, Unit 2, and then you get to the cul-de-sac. Along the streetscape, we are proposing the green pillar pin oak as the street tree. And again, as you can see, the borders and the perimeter of the properties will be lined with green giant arborvitaes to provide screening for the new homes, as well as screening for the neighboring properties. Up at the cul-de-sac is where you can see this is the start of our sign for the trail to the water. You move around past Unit 4, and then this section of the pathway would take you to the western end of the property. Again, I'm just going to switch back quickly to one of the overall planting plans, just to sum up everything a little bit. Overall, we are proposing 70 new deciduous trees, 30 ornamental trees, over 400 evergreen trees, and over 900 shrubs that will create habitat and food sources for wildlife and pollinators. That, of course, doesn't go into all of the perennials, the massive amount of perennials and the native grasses that we're proposing. The intent of the planting design is to enhance the site both environmentally and aesthetically for those who live there and those who enjoy the public access path that's being offered. I think that I touched on all of the highlights of the planting plan, unless Marjorie, you have anything else that you would like me to add?
No, thank you, Abigail.
Yes, thank you.
So just listening to that was for the public access. So people are, where are they gonna park? Where do people come from? Do they drive onto the property and park in the circle? They don't drive on the property?
No,
So how do they get there?
they might park at the school, they might park at town hall and walk, you know.
Okay.
And part of this other access, the new western part of the public access is to provide connectivity from the housing that is.
Senior housing?
Correct, correct. So people will, you know, it's a place to perambulate.
if you were to go look at that other, the Whisper Cove Road path that I mentioned, you'll see there's no parking there either.
Just wondering. But then if somebody was on Sheffield, they could walk onto your street, that would be allowed
Correct.
to get up in two spots.
Correct.
Chris, what referrals have we received so far?
So far, we've received referral responses. These were sent out on, it was February 20th. The building official, the fire marshal, harbor management, planning commission, and we have CRAD. We're waiting on DEEP. Jeff Jacobson is working on his comments. Our attorney will review the legal documents, and once that's all completed, easements and so forth, things are kind of moving around right now. The Gateway Commission has asked for additional time and asked us to continue.
We're hoping to provide the information they want by midweek so that we can see them at their March meeting. That's our goal.
And we're waiting on the fire chief and regional planning agency if they choose to come.
Questions?
Question about the tree removal. Should that happen in a certain time of time?
Yes,
Especially when the bulb and all that?
yes, this will all be, timing control.
Okay. And what is your timeline of it? I mean, if that's really under approval.
I don't know if that's a question that Abigail can answer, or if that's a question we have to come back and answer.
I'm sorry that I could barely hear the question.
Just wondering about the timeline of the tree removal out of concern for the bald eagles and other animals that are nesting.
Fair enough. I'd love to have a better, more thorough answer for you at the next meeting, if the team is okay with that. I think we do need to get a better understanding. There are regulations in timing when tree removal can happen. In relation to not only the bald eagles, but possibly the bats and things like that. So there's definitely timing, but I would like to get a more thorough answer for you for the next meeting, if that's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question about the planned development district. I remember, wasn't there operating rules or a document to describe how everybody interacted with this area? No?
Not because it's a planned development district. It may be either a planned development or a common interest ownership situation for the 4 homes, but that's not a zoning commission issue.
Maybe you're thinking of the map designation, so we merge the public hearing, so you can have the map designation, which is a separate legislative change, and then you have the special exception. Maybe that's what you're thinking, the second component of it.
Maybe I'm wrong. I thought we had the last discussion about some document about the rules and regulations of, I don't want to use the word association, but the community here, the land development community.
You mean like a homeowner association or something like that?
Yeah, I thought there was something about the rules and regulations.
That's
No,
not
okay.
a zoning issue.
Question?
Couple things, just clarification, just need yes or no. The plan development is outside of the Gateway Conservation Zone.
All of the construction activities are, except for the things I listed.
The buildings. The
Proposed houses
All of
Yeah.
them.
outside of it,
Yeah.
yes.
Out of the 100, but they're still in the gateway. It's
But
not-
for clarity, the planned development district would be the entire parcel,
No, I understand.
but our building envelope
Right.
is beyond each of the
Yeah,
setbacks.
that's what I'm referring to. Thank you. And then, nothing right now, I guess 100% isn't the appropriate way to look at it, but, permitted uses within the MI district, with regards to water usage, are pretty slim because of the fact that it abuts the creek. And that was what the prior occupant was saying, especially the person who had worked there before. So I just find that interesting with regards to the permitted uses. And then any of the other special exception uses within the MI district would be, they don't seem to be what could or would be used. The main research laboratory use seems to be the one that was used, and then not sure anything else in there. And then with regards to the establishment of the district, I didn't see it noted anywhere on the plans, but maybe you could point me or just state that it is that the preservation of minimum 10% of the site devoted to residential use is open space. Is there a calculation that that use is at least 10% of the usage of that space anywhere in the documents? Because that's a requirement of the PDD.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may be, I don't remember honestly, it may be in the schedule on the title sheet.
Okay.
For the drawing set, but I'll.
Just something.
I'll check for you, yeah.
Yep, and then the, just understand, so the open space as per the PDD, it says is devoted to residential use. I'm clarifying that that's for, according to the PDD, that's to people who live in that parcel. If you were to make it a PDD, then the open space is for residents of the people in that parcel.
Unless it's designated by the applicant as a coastal access
So
area.
the issue about that kind of open space is really a density control to make sure that there's light and air for the occupants.
Yep.
So certainly in this parcel that has this reconciliation of public access is not exclusive of the people who live there,
Okay.
though their lots, I'll call them advisedly in quotation marks, are not public access,
Right.
so.
Right, and then access to the public access is by walking up and down the street, because there's no sidewalks as of right now in the plan, other than around the gates.
That's right.
Yeah, that's correct.
And then just question on, are the gates, what's the purpose of the gates if the public is able to get in and out of the parcel?
The
You have gates on the plan?
Yeah, the gates would prevent somebody driving a car who didn't live there to be able to drive in. The gates have, the residents will have, actuators, I guess, to.
And then with regards to that, would there be, it's not in the plans, but what's the typical design plan around a turnaround? Because there's not a turnaround on the plan, but if someone gets in and they realize they can't get in.
There is a turnaround.
It is in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the circle at the very
What
end.
is that?
Well, that's my point.
He'd be stopped at the gate.
Yeah, you're stopped at the gate because you can't get in, so how do you turn around?
They would have to back out.
Okay, and then if there's someone behind them, then they have to back up. Yeah, these are just observations because.
No,
this is the first time.
it's a good point, but if you think about it, the frequency of that happening would be,
Yep.
kind of low. I would
Okay. And I take it the cul-de-sac is good for delivery trucks and all that?
Yeah, but the fire, the fire marshal and the fire chief more so.
They'll look into
Need
that.
to comment on it.
And then the proposed PDD must have a minimum frontage of 50 feet on the town road. Is the frontage of that at least 50 feet?
It's on the plans,
Yep.
it's 60 something feet. Yeah.
Okay, and then just shifting to the height of you only had the height on unit 1 and I think unit 4, not units 2 or 3 on the plan, so because the requirement's no higher than 35 feet and it does not list on 2 or 3.
Oh, you mean the architectural?
Yeah,
drawing?
so I'm shifting now to the special exception now.
We'll get that resolved.
So then the question I had was, the reason why I was clarifying the outside of the gateway,
100-foot
Yeah.
setback, yeah.
because that one requires no more than 10% of the height of the cupolas that you have on the design plans, but you're outside of that. So that's where I was clarifying outside of that plan.
So as Chris was saying, we're outside of the 100-foot gateway riparian buffer area, but we're not outside of the gateway conservation zone district.
So
Chris can explain.
So then would the heights of the cupolas still now come back into effect?
So, yeah, and the height, so you'd go to the height gateway conservation
Okay.
zone, not the typical average, so it's from the lowest point of the structure from the existing
Okay.
grade, and I'm sure Gateway will look at that. I have asked the applicant to upgrade the architectural plan.
Yeah,
so that
I
they're
would say.
scalable and that they meet the standards of section 51. It's helpful if we can scale them out and verify some of that without having everything written on.
Right.
the plan.
Because the plans right now don't tell you the height of the cupolas. Okay.
And then, yeah, I also sent some questions on floor plans and story areas and some clarification. I know the applicant's working on.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions.
I got a question for you, on the cover page. You asked about open space. What's the definition?
Well, definition says it has to be at least 10%.
It is on the schedule on the front.
Okay. It's hard.
If it's,
I couldn't remember it.
It's a lot of information.
yeah, paper, that's for sure.
The architectural drawings that you had in here and what we looked at has 4 structures. Correct. I think it only identified 2 structures, but it didn't identify them as to whether they were number 1, 2, 3, or 4. So are you gonna have architectural plans for 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Yeah, I think we did submit plans for units 1, 2, 3, and 4. They may not be readily identifiable. We'll look at that.
Yeah, I didn't see them in here unless I overlooked it.
I'm quite sure we did. I remember having the copies made.
There was one that didn't have any marking on it. Otherwise, it has.
The other question is, explain to me the public access beyond what has been discussed already to the east and to the west as it relates to the comment earlier. I think I heard that the town would be responsible for something.
If they choose to. So the way it's fleshed out so far, this is all new, relatively new. And there's probably a lot of people in the room who can talk about this, but I think we should keep it pretty simple. So we proposed initially with what you saw in my drawings, that you have, not the landscape drawing, but my civil drawings. The eastern portion of the walk on the eastern part of the site, but subsequently, there's been some conversations between the applicant and the Harbor Management Commission and the First Selectman about providing an easement in favor of the town of Old Saybrook on the, I'll call it west of the driveway. Actually, Keith, could you bring your drawing up again? Because his drawing shows it really well.
It's the one that goes up to towards the dock.
That's the eastern part of it. His drawing shows it really easily, yeah. So the eastern portion that goes to the dock is what we proposed initially, and that the applicant will construct that. And Keith can, so that's, Keith that pointed this out, that's this portion. And this is where the viewing area is, the benches. But what we're calling, here's the cul-de-sac, so east of the cul-de-sac is what the applicant will construct, and that's what was originally proposed. And then very recently, these discussions happened about, here's the cul-de-sac again, west of the cul-de-sac. And this little spur is the portion that will be, the applicant will provide an easement and proper easement map and easement documents in favor of the town of Old Saybrook for walkway, in simple terms, for walkway purposes. And if and when the town of Old Saybrook decides to construct it, they will, within the easement. And that walkway, when it leaves the western boundary of this property, the idea, Chris can talk more about this, is to connect through the adjacent senior housing and then actually out to the estuary center, which is, as you know, access off of the post road.
And there's also, so if you connect through senior housing, there's also a public access walkway through 25 Sheffield through the front to Main Street to the Greenberg property as well. So depending on what you're thinking of connecting, there's a lot of different
So the easement,
walkways that there are
Sorry.
easements for that. At one point, there was a big push to connect them all. It kind of dropped off. There really hasn't been development in that area, so that would be worth exploring the different walkways that are already there.
so the easement that'll be granted by the applicant, in really simple terms, will allow the town to construct a walkway on the applicant's land.
Okay, so if the town opts not to do that, it won't exist.
Be totally up to the town. Could, might take a while, but that's what the town would.
And would I be correct in understanding that if the town wanted to expand the access through the other properties, it would be on the town's responsibility?
You mean through
To do
the
that.
adjoining, like the senior housing?
Adjoining properties?
Yeah, nothing to do with this applicant, yeah.
So I think the only one we would have to ask for would be the senior housing, because we already have the formal easements on the other properties. Which is, which way are you connecting? Where are we going?
And then that, if it connected all the way, that would give access from that part of town all the way across the western side of the property and then over into the dock area.
As well as down this driveway to Sheffield Street and then wherever down to the town dock or back up the sidewalk to the center of town.
Okay.
Connectivity, EOPD,
Question what the town wants to do.
sound idea,
An idea,
sound motivated,
an idea and action are two different things.
I understand.
Okay, that's all I had. Since this is a public hearing and there are a number of people here, this evening, anyone wishing to speak in behalf of or in opposition to the application, either online or in person, please raise your hand and identify yourself. Paul?
Paul Connolly, 60 Montville Road. I happen to have a fair amount of familiarity with the harbor management plan, but I'm speaking as a private citizen. Harbor management does not endorse. Harbor management only is a consistency with our plan. There's a very narrow role play. So my point here that I would like to make for your consideration is it is a marine industrial zone currently. We do not have much for that. And it is, in my opinion, it could be inexpensive land for a non-water dependent use, marine use, be appropriate for this spot. You heard them say water dependent use. And it's a challenge site from a water dependency standpoint. So, but from a non-water dependent use, which was what was there before, it's perfectly appropriate marine industrial.
Thank you.
May I comment?
Do you want to do each one or do you want to do
And in
afterwards?
this particular case,
Please
since he
do.
comes from the Harbor
Please do.
Management Commission, which
Speaking as a citizen.
I understand, but there's a finding of consistency from the Harbor Management Commission. The genesis of the business that was there, which was not water dependent, as Mr. Nielsen said, predated the Coastal Management Act, the Title Act, all of those laws that came into effect in the 70s and 80s. That business was there long before that. So under today's laws, water dependency is mandatory. And as I said, 22A-93(16) finds public access to be a proxy for water dependency. So we're satisfying that construct. If the graphic mapping surveying company wanted to establish today and we're not water dependent, they would have a problem getting a CAM approval. The laws have changed over the decades. For the record.
Thank you. Anyone online? I know, I just go back and forth. Yes.
Hi, my name is Vivian Partridge. I'm the Vice President of the Board of Directors for the Senior Housing. I think our major objection is you're talking about putting a pathway on our property. And no one has come to us as the owners of the property to explain what they want to do and why. It would be very nice if they would come to the board and explain what they want to do. Because until you do that, we don't know what we're approving or not approving, okay? It's not owned by the town, where you're talking about putting. It's owned by the board of directors of the senior housing, okay?
Okay, thank you. Is there a comment? Yes, I want to answer, and I'm sorry my back is to you, but I want to answer her question, but I think I should be directing it to the commission. So we, the applicant, is not proposing that path off his property. Just to be clear, all the applicant is doing is providing an easement on his property, should the town wish to construct a path on his property. The path, the connection we talked about that Chris is aware of from his property all the way back to the estuary center, completely on the town of Old Saybrook, has nothing to do with the applicant, and it's not, for the record, it's not a part of this application. Right. It's really the town of Old Saybrook that ultimately, I'm quite sure they will go to the senior housing board, I would imagine, and of course they would, and meet with them, but it's not part of this application.
Right. Does that help clarify that question?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Jennifer Lindenmeyer, 19 Saltus. I've got so many questions. I'm not philosophically opposed at all to residential there. I think it could be fabulous. There are just so many, the devil's in the details. And I have just a lot of questions. So let me ask it this way, because it's 9 o'clock and I'm sure people want to get moving. One is, just to preface, federal regs are 330 feet from an eagle's nest. The intent is not to cut down trees, ever within that radius, and 600 and change feet, creating noise during nesting season, which typically goes from January through April. So just heads up, on that. But with whom do I speak to get my questions on record and to make the most efficient use of this collective group's time? Should I go to each commissioner? I've got questions about clear cutting and flooding implications, because the inside of Saltus is not in a flood zone, but the trees are part of the reason why we're not in a flood zone. So I'm worried about that impact. I've got questions about setbacks, because as I understand it, the development wants to have a driveway as opposed to a road, which comes with different setback requirements. And so the house, positioned as it is right now, is right along our entire backyard. So I'm just trying to understand, how far back will that be? I've got questions about trees that straddle both properties with the root system. So if they do remain, if excavation happens for a basement on the houses along the driveway and pools, is that going to kill my trees, which are 100+ years old? So I've got lots of nitpicky questions that will have implications for at least people on my side of the street, and maybe, well, probably not, you're probably far enough away. But the flooding, the flooding, I don't know. I don't know yet. So, anywho, with whom should I speak about that, and how do I make it as efficient as possible for you all and still get on the record?
So the first thing is, please do not contact individual commission members.
Okay.
While there's an application, the purpose of having a public hearing is that everyone hears the same testimony.
Okay.
You can direct your questions to the commission. I mean, maybe the applicant would be willing, to, if there was a list of concerns that you.
So write a letter and just enumerate, hey, can you please address X, Y, and Z? And okay, that's very helpful. And I'm having a hard time navigating documents on the site. I've tried to pull up a couple of documents that aren't populating when I pull them up. So I did try to do homework in advance of coming. and couldn't access everything. So I'm trying to be, again, as efficient and as effective as possible, but I'm kind of working in a bit of a
So
void.
depending on when you were accessing documents, so the
Last night,
website
or
was
today, actually, while I was
revamped.
sitting here.
Everything should be accessible. We always do have hard copies of the file. The internet is obviously a great tool and you can access things from home. But it
But I
doesn't mean
pop
that
in and
if
get
the things that came in for a previous application at 5 o'clock are not gonna be on the website, so we do our best to populate it, but you're always welcome to come in and look at the hard copies as well. Anybody can assist you.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anyone else? And there's no one else online, right?
Nobody's raising a hand.
Right. So, there's a number of things outstanding that we still need and we're waiting for. So, I would, motion to continue this for our next regularly scheduled meeting of April 6th. Second is by Derek. Any discussion? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry.
Just one other
Yes.
thing. What do we have to look at now? If we want to comment on certain things.
So if you go to the town's website under zoning commission, you look on the right and it has applications. You may have to hit, we get a lot of applications right now, so you may actually have to hit it. It's not gonna just immediately pop up. So we upload the application materials the best we can as they come in, as well as reports from different boards and commissions. And you're always welcome to look at the hard file if there's something you see to be missing, or just give a call and say, oh, I thought there was a report.
The ones that are on the table now,
Oh, they're all there. They're all online.
Everything's online.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you continued both.
Yes, I'll correct that. I didn't say that. That, lastly on here, that we will continue the two applications. 91 Sheffield, the application for plan development district designation and application for special exception permit to our next regularly scheduled meeting of April 6th. Derek seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Public hearing, water view landscaping, application for modification of special exception. Permit for outdoor storage of landscaping materials at 5 Jade Court, map 42, lot 9-2.
So we have.
Excuse me, everyone. We have 2 more public hearings. If you could clear the room and have your conversation,
You
please.
can stay in the room, but if we're having a conversation about another matter.
No. Map 42, lot 9-2, Gateway Business B4 District, applicant 5J Ford LLC, agent attorney Edward Pusella. Action, open public hearing, continue or close by April 6th, or no later than April 19th, 2026. Attorney Pusella.
Hi, good evening. Ed Casella, representing 5J Court LLC. From the wrong file.
Those are all yours. I got enough of it.
No. This is, we're seeking a modification of the previously granted, special exception permit for this property. 5 Jade Court is at the end of the, Jade Court, little cul-de-sac, which is off of Route 1 East, right near, Parts and Cars, and on the way to the car washes. Share my screen, go through the plan. Okay, so this property was purchased by 5J Court LLC and used by Waterview Landscaping since 2017, when we came to the commission and received a special exception permit for a contractor use on the property. Waterview Landscaping has been in business in Saybrook since 2001. And has grown and has needs some additional space. So he purchased property in the rear of the property back here, an additional 25,000 square feet in the rear and on the side, so to speak. It's kind of at a weird angle at the end of the cul-de-sac. And there's wetlands back there, and then there's upland, which includes a slope. So has gone to the Wetlands Commission and received approval, kind of expand back by creating first a little bit of vegetation, which is a row of arborvitaes, and then kind of creating a block retaining wall at the top of the slope, so to speak, and then at the bottom of the slope, creating a berm, which is meant to kind of collect any water running off the site before it gets into the wetlands. So that's the wetland approval. And now we're seeking to get the zoning commission approval for kind of the expanded use of the rear of the property for storage. And it's going to be material storage, vehicle storage, equipment storage. That's much needed over there. There are 2 landscaped areas in the front of the property that have been kind of heavily developed. Each of the corners, those are proposed to remain. There's a sign in the eastern landscaped area here. On the east side, there's easement for the benefit of Connecticut Water Company. And on the west side, there's a connection, paved connection between the 2 properties. This property was used before for kind of vehicle and boat storage and I think repair. And there was just, everything was paved and it was filled with vehicles. So that's what we're asking for, an updated approval to be able to utilize the rear of the property.
Where's the sign?
Signs on the right-hand side, right here, if you can see.
I see it. I didn't see it.
You also have a sign down the street.
Sign in the right, in the, I guess it's Route 1 right away, correct? There's a pylon sign for the whole development.
And that is not on this property.
It's not on this property, it's on state property.
Maybe on the
mobile property. You think?
I thought it was on state property, but I don't know.
No.
survey to determine.
Sir, yeah, I'm surprised, did they not? I haven't looked at their survey yet.
I'm pretty sure it was on Edge, but.
Yeah, that's, you know, that was constructed when Jade Court was built, I would assume in the mid-80s.
There would appear to on visits that I've made that there's parking in the court on the cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
That's in addition to the 8 slips that are already defined on the print. Are those related to this business?
Yeah, they can be. This is, you know, it's a seasonal business, so the part of getting this room is to be able to kind of expand everything and open up more areas for parking on the property and get it off of Jade Court. So I think that's going to be one of the benefits of this approval.
And the abutting property is also owned by Jade Court LLC?
Yep, yep. So he acquired the abutting property as well. That just has an auto use in it, detail use right now.
There is equipment stored there from the business as well. Is that going to be continued, or is that?
That's a question once this work is done as to whether or not that needs to continue. And if it does, we'll have to come in for a modification of that as well.
So is the anticipation that with a possible improvement that parking or storage of equipment there may be shifted to the existing product.
Part of the hope,
And if not, you'd come back for
a modification of that property, to kind of define everything, because there's not we have an approval on this property. The only approval on the other property is from, I don't even know what M&N got from when they were operating. And it used to be M&N Auto House for those.
Yeah.
So I know we did write letters to 3 Jade Court. There were some complaints that we couldn't approve their sign in the right of way or on the mobile property. There's been kind of a history of everything spilling over between the lots now that they're acquired. There was at one point between the properties and through the perimeter landscaping, there was a number of trees that I guess were for sale if you wanted to come by and buy them. So it would be nice to kind of know how this is working as a complex. It's good that 5 Jade, acquired the property from Mr. Rand to address some other issues with another commission. But at some point, I think the commission here really needs to see how this is being used as a complex, including the cul-de-sac.
And 3, I think 3 J.
Well, that's what I'm saying, 3, 5, and the cul-de-sac seem to be used as needed, depending on the demand or what's going on that day.
Right.
I sort of was kind of thinking the same thing, but I'm looking at the statement of use and there's a lot of things missing relative to this conversation, like how many employees are there? What are the hours of operation? I know it's seasonal and what type of vehicles are gonna come and go? And is there somebody thinking about that? It's kind of the same thing.
That was kind of the hope of this application, to clarify where we are as a result of a violation.
So I believe, and we don't have the photos here with us, is that the sign on the street from the
complex sign?
Yeah, the complex, so the pylon sign?
Yeah.
All right, showed a nursery sales example on the sign as well.
A proposed
application.
Let's see what's out.
So is there intent to be a nursery for retail?
Not on 5 J Court.
I think it expanded the perimeter of 3 and 5 in the landscaping area, and then there was some discussion
Did
about.
you say that it's nursery sales is on the sign currently? Or there's
No,
a proposed sign application to address the nursery sales that were straddled across the property line for 3 and 5.
I can't see. Yeah, all right, I thought you said it was on.
No,
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Proposed.
I think I sent you that application. As I said,
Yeah,
we needed to address it. I didn't deny it with the hope that this application would resolve some of the issues.
Yeah, so from what I understand, you're looking for information on employees, hours of operation, and equipment.
An updated statement of use.
Yeah. Okay. And then I know, and it's not gonna be handled with this. The 3 Jade Court, if they want to utilize it for nursery sales and things like that, then that will have to come back.
If that's a separate business from.
Correct.
From this, then that would be handled as a special exception, correct?
Right.
So, well, my understanding from the person I spoke with at 5 Jade Court was that once 3 Jade Court was purchased, they needed additional room for the landscaping that would either be brought to a site to be installed, but people could also go there and pick out whatever trees it was, but those were straddled between the 2 property lines. So it seems that between the 2 sites, depending on how busy one use is, it kind of overflows into the other.
I get it. So, but I can get an updated statement of use, hours of operation, number of employees, equipment, and then come back with a plan for 3 J Court. That'll be a separate application, but at least, give you a better handle on what's gonna happen there.
I think that would benefit all of us.
It doesn't talk about the cul-de-sac there and parking in the street and all that, but. Cause it's not, it's kind of off the property, but
Yes.
it's one of the questions, so.
That's a private road, isn't it? That's not, is that town?
I think it's private.
Private.
I think the issue is that 5G Court has become very successful. They've acquired 3.
Yeah.
And they're trying to fit too much on number 5, including equipment and dump trucks and trees and whatever else. That's why it's spilling out into Jade Court.
He's already done the blocks in the back and the.
No, he hasn't.
No.
No, that hasn't been done.
Been approved.
Yeah,
But,
so it'll be done, it'll be done this spring.
So that, I mean, that's a good thing for the business.
That's a good
Okay,
thing.
That's a good thing for the.
That's an
town.
expansion right there that's gonna help.
All right, what we need to do is have you pull it all together and tell us what's going on,
I get it.
okay? So,
April 6th.
I'll make a motion to continue the, water view landscaping to our.
I was gonna say, does anybody else have any questions? But
Oh, okay.
I know everybody's.
I'm sorry, you're right.
I do.
Well, that's, Paul, any questions?
No nursery sales.
That's what I just said. No one on.
Quiet.
So.
And would it make sense to try to, I don't know if do they have a permit or a site plan for 3? I was gonna say,
That's starting from scratch.
okay.
That's
asking
that's the way.
Well, with the
I'll
lot
get-
line changes and so forth.
I'll get you a report. That's not.
So I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for water view landscaping to our next regularly scheduled meeting of April 6th. Second. By Laura. Any discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor, signal by saying aye. Opposed, abstained, passes 500. See you on April 6th. Thank you. Okay, so last for the evening. Van Wilgen application for modification of special exception permit to add additional asphalt and relocate the cashier shed. 1560 Boston Post Road, map 26, lot 30, Gateway Business B4 District. Applicant agent is Ryan Van Wilgen and action.
Representation tonight.
No?
Bonus representation.
Okay. Action, open public hearing, continue or close by April 6th, 2026, or no later than April 19th, 2026. Attorney Casella.
So Van Wilgens, was approved in 2024 for a garden center. At 1560 Boston Post Road. And, the site is being developed as we speak to open this spring. And, when the contractors were out there, there was a paving truck to pave some of the area where the greenhouses were, and the area behind it where there's a handicap parking space and a shed. And they went beyond the pavement limits on the plan. And I can kind of show you this. We pulled it up earlier, so I don't know how quickly I can get it, but, so we're here for a modification to update the plan for an additional 4% of paving, just in the area that was already proposed to be, more or less part of the operation, to get that approved. So Ryan and I reviewed the comment from Jeff Jacobson as well. I'll just bring this up. The plan actually does show the edge of pavement. So,
Want to show that to me?
yeah, I can. Just give me 1 second, sorry. I don't know if I'm working on it.
I think Jeff was looking for the edge of pavement, but versus what was approved.
Yeah.
And that net increase. I
can-
talked to him this afternoon.
So the percentage increases on here. So the original total lot coverage was 29.4%.
Yeah, I think he was just looking to show the area that was widened, so when,
Yeah,
right, when he went out there, we also had the issue of snow cover, which was kind of
a little bit.
yeah.
All right, so just give me like 2 seconds, because I can pull up the
Difference.
approved plan too.
Anyway.
They just go straight to work and leave it.
That's all.
Thank God he started at 6.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Next door?
No, we started at 6.
Yeah.
Oh,
John has to get up at 5:30.
working too hard in that retirement job.
You quit one job already.
Search for the wrong name, but let me see here. This is the. Yeah. Okay. All right, so here's the original approved. Actually, no, this is the new one. This is the new one. So the paved area is essentially this box here, right, Ryan?
Yep.
So the curb stops on the right, back behind the shed, and then right along.
Right to the fence.
To the fence line here. Okay, so this is the existing paved area, that box.
What's currently there.
Yeah. And what was approved was.
There were more pathways around the building.
One pathway, yeah.
So I said to him, make it as narrow as you can around the outside of the greenhouse, and this is what we got.
Let's hope this is the right one. Nope.
I was looking, you're moving
The shed.
where's the shed?
Let's just focus.
Well, I thought I just.
If we can on this, because he's gonna pull right up. No, we'll
So
go to that. Sorry, John.
I mean, I can kind of summarize.
Oh, here,
this
we got
from,
it, got it up there. Okay, here we go. So the old asphalt was behind the building here. And then there was a pathway here.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And the two little things, and then obviously the building. So now this is filled in right here, this white, the whites are what's filled in, white, 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 white. That's what we're talking about, that's filled in, basically.
All around.
And that's the portion on the, is that the east side?
It's on a little bit on the north
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
these like 1, 2, 3 little guys.
Yeah.
And then on the west here, and then on the east between the building or the greenhouse and the curb stops.
He took literal around the greenhouse.
Yeah, so we got a call from one of the concerned neighbors, residential neighbors. And I wasn't available, someone from the office stopped and the paving contractor kind of said, well, it was easier than hand digging it to just go around the building, which I don't have the authority to modify your approval, and that's how we got here today. And then there were some other site modifications, moving the shed and things.
Yeah, we were on site in January, like that 1 week that was 50 degrees.
Yeah.
We got a little bit of work done. And we saw that where the shed was on the site plan, and we put it there, like it just doesn't feel right. And then the guy had moved it over there, like it seems like it would work better here because you'll be facing people as they walk in the gate. So as customer experience and employee safety, we moved it there, like, oh, we like this. So we updated the plan to represent that.
Attorney Casella, where is the new location now?
That's the shed
Right there.
Right where
Move your
the
cursor.
mouse is.
It's on the bottom.
Oh,
Right here.
Okay.
And it was
Right there.
right about here before.
Okay.
It just shifted over a few
Flipped around and moved some feet.
feet. So we were talking about the pavement is shown on the plan here. I guess it could be, it could be a mark that says edge of pavement. And then the second question is with respect to the increase, there's a 4% increase. And Jeff is recommending a trench drain be installed along the eastern boundary.
Right. That corner there is where I think the original
inquiry or complaint, if you wanna say, from the neighbor was prior to us grading the parking lot to its correct pitch. But-
So there's separate kind of, I'll try to give the Cliff Notes version to
Yeah.
get everybody out of here. So the paving complaints came from the folks in the residential neighborhood. During the construction process, the neighboring property, Saybrook, where Saybrook Pizza is, they were experiencing flooding. I reached out to the engineer. They said we're still under construction. There was some back and forth that maybe the process was compacted too much. I'm not an engineer, so when this came up, I asked Jeff, our engineer, just to take a look at it, and he said by adding a trench, it may help to alleviate that draining on the side, and we are increasing the impervious surface, so it could work that way. In my discussion with Jeff today, obviously the infiltration trench would need to be designed. And I didn't do this formal ordinance 71 referral for this. But he said he didn't have any test pit information or anything like that, you know what I mean, without doing a formal review for guidance, but he could ask you as the applicant to talk to your engineer, maybe to design something or have the two of them talk and kind of address the drainage problem.
So I think since the parking lot has been graded to the right, it's going away from the Saybrook Pizza. I don't think there's been complaints since the original, but I do agree, we can dig a trench right there and it's all sand underneath. So we could put a trench in with, surge stone to alleviate any water. And then the parking lot on the other side has extensive history of flooding prior to anything that we've done.
Well, part of the issue too that I had is when I sent Jeff out there, he couldn't see what was there because of the snow. So the thought would be that maybe your engineer could reach out to Jeff. They could take a look at it, not to make it a giant expensive project, but try to offset this.
Seems like an overcomplication of something that we could just do and make it as best as it's gonna be for the neighbor, because they're never gonna have a complete alleviation of their issue, but we're not going to contribute to
But
it.
he'd be willing to install a trench drain on, on the north, like the northeast side. That's where the water is going, the natural grade is. So catch it going east and frankly.
So as a condition of approval, the applicant would agree to, item number 3 on Jacobson's letter?
Yeah, as long as it's in the, the northeast corner, which is where the water is going.
Does he identify the area?
No.
You're saying all along
Yeah,
the property line, correct?
he says east.
East side.
Oh, the east is
Yeah,
Wisconsin.
of the lot, so it'd be the entire east side of the lot.
However, the grade is decreasing from, the back of the property to the front of the property, so the trench on that side.
I think what makes sense is to say, put a trench drain as agreed upon by the engineer, and then Jim can talk to him and they can.
And that's kind of what I'm thinking.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
And the water property slopes to the street.
Yeah, and then the neighbor next door's property is already lower than ours was originally.
And I'm not saying there weren't issues with drainage in the parking lot, but the thing is to contribute it, and then when I had him go out there to take a look at it, because the snow, I mean, you really couldn't see anything, so.
Yeah.
This way. I have the picture,
I've got videos, I got all kinds of.
lucky you.
I'm sorry.
He was nice, and I just said to him.
Yeah, and
he's trying to go through, he's like, I wanna be a good neighbor, but I'm getting all this water. So I just said, well, at some point we'll investigate it when it's done, and then.
Yeah, and
this
it's
came
before
up.
the berms went in and the landscaping, which
so-
are obviously gonna catch water, so.
We can fix it very easily.
Thank you.
We wanna be good neighbors.
I think they wanna be
Yeah.
friends with their neighbors too, so it just.
Any other questions from commission?
No.
Since this is a public hearing, is there anyone in the audience or online wishing to speak on behalf of or in opposition to this application? Raise your hand. in the room, and there's no one online raising their hand. So I'll make a motion to close, public hearing for Van Wilgen application for modification of special exception permit. Seconded by John Henry. Is there any discussion? Not hearing any, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of closing public hearing indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, passes 5-0. Do we have enough information this evening to deliberate on this application?
Yeah, it's good.
No? Yes? Yes. Okay, so we have everything that we need. Okay, so, make a motion to approve Van Wilgen application for modification of special exception permit to add additional asphalt and relocate the cashier shed 1560 Boston Post Road, map 26, lot 30, Gateway Business Board B4 District with the following conditions. And Ed, would you like to restate that?
Yeah, I think a drain will be constructed on the east side of the lot as approved by the town engineer.
Drainage trench.
Drainage trench, yeah, whatever the
And don't believe there's any other conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it needs a second.
Infiltration sounds better, right?
Infiltration sounds good.
Second.
Second by Laura Craig. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Move to a vote. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Tom.
Great, thank you.
Infiltration and the drainage.
Alright,
So the east side
of all the applications, it says the least amount of paper.
satisfaction.
I know. Still gotta carry it off. Saw you guys all walking over the bottom.
Yeah. Paul, did you have anything you want to speak to?
Yeah.
Thank you for.
You guys earn your money.
You guys do too.
Yeah,
You had a few
you
meetings.
had some pretty big.
Committee representative and staff reports.
All right, I'm gonna keep this pretty.
John?
Thank you.
Pretty quick. As you can see, everything we've been waiting for a year and a half has arrived all at once, so it's a little bit, it's one of the busiest times we've had in a while. Your next meeting, you've got your,
March 30th, correct?
we have a special meeting on March 30th with, drive-through cannabis. I'm trying to kind of spread some of it out to fit some of the smaller stuff, so it's not too overwhelming, even though it is kind of overwhelming. I saw some. March 30th, drive-through cannabis, Penny Lane Pub with a discussion about putting a pretty large tent in the back for their outdoor seating. Fenwick Ice Cream, who is supposed to come and see you. Oh, you've got the cheat sheet, I can bring it. What else did we have there?
Cannabis, really.
Should we see if he wants to continue water? Can we amend it? It's too late, I guess.
We said we continue by the next.
No, if we were to put it to that,
Oh.
we could have to
Can we go back to one?
add. See if we can add Benoit or Court water view.
Hey, Ed?
Special meeting here, 6 o'clock. Oh,
Yes.
they don't have it in the number.
Let me see. Hold on, we'll recess.
Where's the other one?
You read them? No. Well, I still have stuff in the box.
And then all this whispering winds, do we need any more of that? No.
Whispering.
So do we have to make a motion on that? Or are you just gonna put it in there? I think.
No, so what we need to do, because we just talked to Ed, we had no one at the public hearing for Jade Court. And we have the meeting on March 30th. So we canceled, you made a motion to continue the public hearing for Jade Court to your April 6th meeting. If you can just modify and correct it to put it on the special meeting of March 30th. And then that way it'll kind of lighten the lows with the Hanford Commons, Whispering Winds, and everything you continue tonight is going to April 6th.
Okay.
So on April 6th, we have Whispering Winds, Hannaford,
And 91 Sheffield. So you need to make a motion to amend your motion for you continued the public hearing for 5G Court, the April 6th meeting.
So you're saying.
I can't make the motion.
Then I make a motion to move,
Correct.
correct the date for the Jade Court continuance to March 30th meeting.
Special meeting.
Special meeting. I need a second. Second by John Henry. Any discussion? Not hearing any, move to a vote. All those in favor, speaking by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, passes 5-0-0.
All right.
Okay, so that brings us up to date.
So you have a lot coming in. Max's place is coming in too. They're starting ARB. We should have their application. You have another affordable housing application coming in. Mark is recused, but you're also gonna start potentially at some point in the future with the Between the Bridges application. There's some rumblings that that's coming in. So you've got a lot going on now. The thought, unfortunately, is we just kind of hammer through it. And then we were discussing just kind of general business. And at one point before the election, we had started some kind of housekeeping text amendments for regulation changes. And there's a few things we can have to adopt that I started correcting. And the thought was if we try to, we're either going to kind of keep kicking the can down the road because there's so much going on, or maybe as much as we hate to do it, have a special meeting in April so we can kind of go through the text, focus, you know what I mean, on the things that we can get through and get adopted so I can schedule a public hearing sometime, you know, in the summer. I know I've gotten actually a few different inquiries about different regulation changes, more housekeeping or different ideas. However, I don't know how many of you have been kind of following this whole House Bill 8002 and some of the changes with the housing. We're also, looks like we're gonna need to amend the zoning regulations to deal with that by July 1st. So that's something else I kind of have cooking on the side while we're cranking through this stuff, which is obviously time sensitive. So the thought would be we can go through, for the new members, I can kind of bring you up to speed if you want to just kind of go through the regulation changes. I know these guys have seen over and over. This was, you know, we had nursing home updates. We talked about the gateway trays, things like that. So, I mean, I'm happy to meet with you kind of to get you up to speed so you understand and we can kind of hit the ground running with the workshop. And so once we have the workshop, if you're okay with the text, then we have to, it's a minimum of at least 35 days to schedule the hearing. And the thought is we've got a lot of things kind of ready to go and things just keep getting added and keep getting added. And we're saying, how long are we just going to kind of keep this stuff in limbo? Because new things keep coming in. So just try to knock those out, work on the housing stuff. I'm working with the region, our attorney, and there's a lot of different ideas of how to interpret the new laws. So I talked to one group, they say one thing and someone else says the other. So it's going to be interesting, but that'll kind of be a discussion, not for 9:45 at night. Maybe we could talk about it after our workshop.
So the need to set another special meeting in April to do that, I think is critical for two reasons. One, we get it done. And number two is it also will free up time
some time for Chris to work on the housing bill and all the regulations that are coming to the surface about what it means by July 1st.
Well,
So
it's gonna go on.
I know it's gonna go
Going
on
on
longer than that.
consecutive.
I know, but if we don't clean up some of these other things, we're not gonna get it done. Plus, we've been passing these
Yeah.
updates on now for
For a year.
a year.
And then we said, well, we're having the election, we're gonna have a change in the board. And we said, well, let's wait till the new, and then it just
Right.
been crazy.
Then we got snowballed.
So,
What about the middle of April and
well, we were thinking,
Wednesday or?
Well, so that's what I was gonna say. If possible, can we make the special meetings on Mondays if they fit into everybody's calendar? If they don't, then that's fine. That's why we have alternates, but if you wanna include me, Mondays are best.
so what if, and I know it kind of seems a way out. Because where we are now, we have our meeting today, the 16th. We have a special meeting on the 30th. Then you have a meeting on the 6th. Your meeting on the 20th, the thought would maybe be the 27th.
That's the only, I'm not here, but if that's fine. I'm traveling internationally, so.
When will you be here?
I'm every other Monday.
Why don't we do the
Just the
13th?
27th.
Because I don't think I'm gonna be able to pull it all together and deal with your motions.
So then if you have
the
to,
other
then
What
move.
about, what's our first meeting in May? May?
Fourth?
Yeah, and that one, you're gonna have another affordable housing application and at work.
If you need to do 27th to 29th, then I can provide whatever.
Do you wanna do that? And then we can kind of go through what it is and
Yep. All right, so 4/27.
special.
And then that also kind of hopefully will free up our summertime. A little bit. Maybe.
So we'll say 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, yeah, and then we'll reserve the room, most likely it'll be here.
9 or something.
And then depending on how far, I'll try to get you the text in advance. That's what I'm saying. If we do it the 13th, I gotta crank it all out for next week. Architecture Review Board sent you a memo too, that was distributed. They have two things they'd like to change in the sign reg, so what's been happening, all of these things that I don't think you're really gonna object to are coming in. And it's just like, if we could just kind of hammer out the easy stuff, get that off our plate. And then at some point, obviously we gotta deal with the things we have to adopt and then go from there. The other thing that came up, with a different commission is we've had some requests for, site plan review education. I talked to the region today, and they actually were talking to UConn. They've been trying to get them in. I'm gonna pursue it, but we do have a lot of new members and everybody has different, skill sets on scaling out plans and things like that. One of the things tonight is these different versions of the plans. We're so used to going with an architectural scale, being able to measure stuff. These plans come in, Jeff can't review them, I can't review them, we can't scale them. They really don't even meet the application requirements. But as I said, it came up too that we should have some training. Yukon Clear does have a video that you can watch, just to go through, but I'm hoping to kind of get somebody in who could say, okay, how far is the shed to the driveway, or how to read an architectural plan and that. And I think with so many new members and so much going on, it's important, but Yukon Clear does have that, and I'm gonna try to get something going with that. What else do we have here? Other things that are coming up, many of you attended the department, keep calling the Department of Housing, our Main Street B1 study for the mixed use. We're looking at potentially May 6th is another outreach, which it's important. I've been calling them planning and zoning meetings because it's gonna end up in your plate. And we need buy-in and input now on any potential zoning regulation changes. Deep was also gonna come and do a little coastal site plan thing in May. I'm kind of at a point, we have so much going on, I'm not calling and saying, are you coming? If they call and say we're coming, with some of this, just because we're all gonna be burnt out. Those of you watching the resiliency plan from Chapman Beach to Indiantown, it's a $500,000 study we have going on. We were supposed to have outreach this month. We postponed that because the our folks out in the field went and they're using deep mapping and this other whiteout mapping. And what they're finding is that an area marked as marsh is water. So we can't really base a study and do modeling on that. I know it's not a zoning thing, but I know there's been some interest in it. And it's just an overwhelming a lot going on at once. And Mark is being very optimistic that hopefully we'll get through it in the summer. Will be a little bit of a break, and maybe it will. So
We'll get through our next meeting relatively easier, the April 6th one. We did a lot of the work up to now. Like, really, the first two are just really emotions.
Yeah.
You know? Sheffield's gonna go on for at least.
We'll see how
We'll
that
see what
goes.
happens.
We're waiting
with
on Gateway.
Yeah, the Gateway has to chime in, so. We'll see.
And I'm trying to kind of pace it out. I took some time off in February and there were applications like Jade Court. We did the referral for that. It was supposed to be here last March. It came in and it was just like, and Sarah's like, everything's fine, everything's fine. And I see another application come in, another application. She's like, things are quiet. And I'm like, and then I just started working. I'm like, there's just so much going on.
Where's Whole Foods?
No application.
Nowhere, right?
So, yeah, I mean, who know, that's what, there's all these things that are kind of looming, you know, and you just don't know. Is it all of a sudden I'll be like, here you go. And I'm like, where did that come from? So anyway, that's it. I'm not gonna, if you have questions for me, I mean, I could talk about things for hours, but I think we've all had enough and
For tonight.
Yeah.
if there's anything you need and on the applications, if you have questions or whatever, you know, feel free to reach out.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, you guys rushed it now. I'm calling you, John. All in favor, saying aye. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.